It's another one of those summoning insight things, isn't it? Which, by the way, I will just say this. Everyone who's a hater always told me, like, no, you talk too much, you interrupting the guest. Like, even though, by the way, it was summoning insight, and like the other person was just Monty, not even a guest, like the other co-host. But all I'll say is this, is if you only watched for Monty, then why are you watching now? Checkmate. Checkmate, atheists. Checkmate. I believe I have just checkmated the show at you. And before you go, yeah, but I'm watching for Yamato now. First of all, we've seen his stream numbers. We know that's not true. That's just too harsh in it. So whatever you might think. Wait,
bro, League is suffering nowadays, bro. Everybody out is suffering.
Yeah, everyone's
trying to eat, Thorin.
Everyone's being up
to me.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Anyway, let's get into the actual show. Here's the thing though, Yamato. We won't, unlike past weeks though, because normally I only like to go straight into LCK or LPL if it was like some insane series that was the most next level shit. There wasn't really this week. So I think actually we'll do it in a different order. Normally we leave LEC. Let's just do LEC first. I think LEC is wide open for topics, Yamato. Like when I do my LEC talk show, which by the way is already in the can for this week, it'll just come out in a day or two. I think tomorrow it comes out. Basically, I won't say who the guest is. You'll find out on Twitter. But basically, mate, there's one problem we have in LEC, and this is the problem. What's making it exciting is all the top teams have clear flaws. Like Fnatic already lost to SK, which is unforgivable. KCorp has almost lost to about half the league, but they just keep somehow tripping over and winning because the other teams just don't have like the knockout power. And then G2 just actually got for reals fucking swept by BDS. Yes, BDS with 113. Yes, that happened. Like, bro, right now, here's the problem. On the one hand, it's made the league wide open. Because I'll tell you what, the obvious team I'm looking for, by the way, is in this coming up week. Mate, if Koi do well this week, the winner of the league's going to be wide open, mate. Like, this could be an insane playoffs. On the other hand, though, here's what scares me a bit, Yamato. It does also make me worry. Like, have we achieved parity, but because we just all suck as a region? That's essentially... So I want to know where you're at on that one. What is the health of the league for Yamato? Where are you at on that?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's always... Like the canary in the coal mine is kind of like the leader, you know, KC. I think it's always, in terms of mechanical skill, it's always still there. I feel like their problems are so solvable, especially now because they are not playing in Madrid. Like scheduling wise,
yes,
they are chilling legit for 4 weeks.
Yep.
Because after this week in Madrid where they don't play, they play only against Rogue. So they have so much time to restructure, to take a step back and to figure their things out because it's very clear that they just require time. It's like they are missing things that they've like missed in the past. In my mind, I think that in terms of how I imagine the build-up, just because of how the format is, knowing the best of threes and the teams actually have time to breathe, I think in terms of skill, as we ramp up in the playoffs, I think that we might see like the highest level of league within the LEC that we've seen in a long time, just because of the format and knowing that the teams on an individual level have like a very, very high ceiling. So it's like all of these like issues, I feel like a lot of them are very solvable, especially for KC. I think also for G2 in terms of like their draft assessment and how they team fight. It's like we can start with going deeper there because I think the G2 BDS result is just the most fucking interesting one. It's like your favorite player, Nuka-Cola, Mr. Nuclear Int himself. He fucking popped off in this one, man. He had quite the series. The Tristana game, I never really had a lot of faith in him playing anything outside of the majors. I think right now for the LEC, there's a lot of mid laners are very happy that the best mid laners on the patch right now is like Victor. You have Azir, Talia, always things that can always lean on. And I thought that he would stick to that. So when I saw the Tristana, I thought it was going to be business as usual. Nuke is going to find a way to like end the game, but he's like solo killing. He's making plays and fights. There was like that top dive that was kind of ugly. But other than that, so it's like that series was a very, very honest win. Because on G2 side, I don't know what they are doing in terms of their team fighting. They are so uncoordinated. They are really, really not playing around the same space. And it's interesting how G2 has been forced to restructure completely because the creativity of BB and Caps was very enabled by how Mickey played the map and how he played the game. And now with Labrov, they just need to always play these structured games because the best version we saw of G2 this split and also last split is when their draft is like they have like the Civil Ludo, for example. They push one side, they play a very stable 4-1, they stack objectives, which is not really what we saw from G2 last split, where it was like they made these side lane plays, they got these tier 2s for free, and suddenly Caps and BB were just like 50 CS ahead. tearing like a Fnatic apart that just couldn't coordinate. But now, if they are challenging that stability and they have a weaker front to back pretty much, they seem to struggle. And BDS came in with that exact plan in mind. They just picked very, very strong front to backs, and they were there first on the objectives. And 113's decisiveness was just paying off because G2 just wasn't good on the objectives. It was a very honest win from BDS side, I feel.
No, by the way, I'll separate BDS because I actually think we can give them props. Like, I think that if you even look, here's what's funny. I actually think BDS is the opposite of KCorp without going too far on the KCorp one. Because KCorp can be behind in a million games. They can be losing, but they can just get themselves out of trouble with their hands. BDS is the opposite, bro. They've had leads on so many, in the same way as I think KCorp should actually have lost most of their series. Bro, BDS could have won like 2 or 3 more series. Like, they're always like right there with the lead, and at a point where like this is why, unfortunately, I have to criticize Nuke if he doesn't get it, because bro, these games, he did it in this series, but normally these exact games are where he just donates the lead back. In fact, by the way, it reminds me of Niski. Niski did the same shit. He would make a big play that he'd bank an int right afterwards. Like, what these guys don't get is, like, Caps didn't do that, bro. Or if Caps does one int, he's going to do 2 godlike plays later. Not this week, but in past seasons, he'd always make up for it. So my problem is, one, if no one remembers, the original tweet I actually made that made Nuke so mad wasn't even like a diss about being a horse. It was the one where I just said, like, something like, and by the way, this is aged deliciously like 2 years later, my tweet just said something like, something like, one of these days Nuke's going to be on like a normal team and he's going to realize like what real life is like. Because essentially my problem with the old BDS is I do think like they had strong players elsewhere, like Labrov, Adam, and Crowdy obviously, and I think part of Nuke's whole thing is, for me, he's like a system mid laner. He plays within the system the coaching staff designs, and they clearly like have a lot of like ideas about how his jungler should play with him when he had Shio, etc. But anyway, to put that to one side, because I do think BDS played pretty well, it's just like I'm saying, I just don't think they had the knockout power to close the series a lot of the time. But this particular one, I'm with you. You can't even make it only a G2 diss session. You have to first of all give props to BDS. Like, this is why, if you notice, the player that divides opinions the most on these talk shows, Yamato, is 113. Because there's some junglers, even some pro junglers, think he sucks. So my problem is this. I do think he is like a super fucking like up and down player. Like he's got that thing where he can either win you the game or also throw you the same game. He's got that in him. But bro, this particular series makes me, I'm with you. I have to ask questions about G2 here because 2 things. One, think about the last year, all those times they look, as basically everything except the first split of last year, they looked sloppy the whole time. They were like barely winning it. They were doing all those crazy comebacks in BDS and Fnatic. That isn't this G2, mate. This G2 can't do that. Like, I'm with you. I actually think, even though he's not the person like making the bad play in the team fight, it's just, like, in English, the term is conspicuous, Yamato. It means like, it's like the fact that like this isn't happening is what you go, whoa, what's going on? Like, when you watch these team fights that you're talking about, I know what you mean. If Mickey X was there, bro, they'd just turn these fights. They just would. Whereas Labrov, here's his problem. He's not like inting them, but he's just not making Mickey X type. Like, by the way, he doesn't even peel like Mickey X used to. That's one of the best. You can tell, if I had to predict, if we could actually sit Hans Sama down and inject him with the truth serum, I think he made the wrong choice, bro. I think he thought he had like an idea of what he wanted from Labrov that he thought Mickey X wasn't doing for him. And what he did is the classic mistake everyone makes when they change partner is you look for what they aren't, and you forget what they were. You forget what they did bring to your life. And in this particular case, I'll tell you what, Mickey X was fucking dynamite to having a really chaotic team fight like this where you're behind and you want to get back in the game. You need someone to make some genius play. And then the other thing I'll say is this, Yamato. The part that's really disturbing, it actually makes me worried about the playoffs in a few weeks, is like you say, it was the team fighting. Because, mate, what the fuck were they doing in that Xin Zhao game for 113? Like, that was actually like people playing a champion they've never played against or something. Like, they just let him do it over and over again. Like, the first time Yamato, it's like, fair enough, anyone can fuck up execution. They just let this guy just come in every single time. Like, I actually was thinking he was inting, but it just kept working. Like, what do you think about that? That was actually blowing my mind, bro. I was kind of shocked by that.
It was absurd that it worked over and over again, but it was like there's so many moments where you can just pause and it could be like one of those picture frames where you just like show to a patient, at a fucking psychiatrist's office. It's like, what do you feel? It's like, oh,
like
fucking confusion.
Test. Right,
like fucking confusion is what I see here. Because there was like moments, I remember there was this one fight where Labrov is like on a Raptor. There's 3 people in River, and then Hansama ease into the Drake pit, aggroes the Drake, and then they just like lost the game on the spot because there was no like real fundamental idea in terms of how they wanted to do the setup. And
Okay.
G2 of old was always like, oh, our game condition is bad. Okay, we understand we need to pressure side. We need to win over position. We need to really, really squeeze as hard as we can through side lanes. And that's how they always won, regardless of like game condition. This was like their biggest strength. But now it just seems like they require so much structure to go through, and they need to pretty much structure their way out of bad situations. And if the enemy team is just grouping and not really running it down the way BDS did, then they're going to just win out those games, because Victor was really fed, Justano was really fed. And on the topic of 113, I think I understand why junglers don't like him. I think it was the same criticism that Malrang got when pretty much like Rogue won the split. There's certain players that recognize the flaw of their teammates. And what Malrang recognized on Rogue was that he has teammates that are not going to be willing to pull the trigger. There were many scrims we played against Malrang's Rogue where they tried to play farming junglers, but it just didn't work. He needed to make sure that everybody was safe, because everyone would just play relentlessly aggressive. And his idea was, if I'm going to be there, I just need to pick something that clears fast. And then later, I just need to have some kind of a button, because my teammates weren't the ones to hard force and to engage. Trimby was more known for playing, of course, the range supports. And I think Odoamne and, of course, Larsen are a little bit more timid, more safe as players. And Malrang adjusted himself to that. When junglers played against us, like, why is he skipping camps? Look how behind he is. How can he win the game? And I think 113 has the same kind of idea on this roster, because if you look at Irrelevant and Nuke, they kind of have a very similar archetype to Odoamne and Larsen. I think 113 needs to add that layer of aggression to the team, and he is very, very snappy in the way he plays. There's been many, many times where you hear on the mic checks, it's like 113 is like, guys, why the fuck didn't we go? Like, we can just fight, we are strong. And I think that in terms of his approach to the game, it's very clear that that's the solution he's trying to bring. There's ever been moments where he overreached, but leading up to those moments, I think, for example, that Fnatic series that they lost in winter, I think putting them in a winning position in the first place was all him, because he was willing to pull the trigger. Because I remember, like, your co-host Peter Dunn was saying, if they had Shio here, they would win. If they had Shio there, they would have never been there in the first place.
It's true.
It just doesn't work like that, you know? It's like you have to understand that always the good comes with the bad sometimes. And if 113 can tone that down just a little bit when the moment hits, then I think BDS can definitely be a formidable team. That mid-tier is looking super, super exciting after Vitality beat also, of course, Koi. Like, that mid-tier is really hype.
Yes. I mean, put it this way. I'm not even joking. On BDS, the only player, in my opinion, who's actually like elite or borderline elite is Ice. I think he actually is just really good. Like, I mean, because one of the things I'm so impressed with is he just delivers every week, mate. Like, even when they lose, this guy normally has a good game. Like, he really does just do his job. But aside from that, I actually don't think any of their players are elite in the LEC. So I have to say, again, it's a familiar refrain, but I always do give a lot of the credit for this team to their coach Striker, like, all the coaching staff in general. He can't know who does what. But because I just look at all the rosters he's had, mate, and the guy can just make it work. Like, spoiler, everyone now knows all the problems he had in KCorp with Reckless, but he did actually fuck around at the end of that and still win EU Masters, if people don't know. Like, this guy just makes his rosters work. Like, he might have a different approach. He certainly has some sort of, like, when you like that, I still think that, but even though the benching of Adam now sort of aged poorly, because now that Mad Lions run was allowed because of that, and it went all the way to the finals and went to Worlds. Like, at the time, though, it was one of the most gangster moves any coach has ever done, in my opinion. So one thing I appreciate is that this is actually one of the rare coaches who seems to not only have, like, I decide what we do tactically, but he actually seems to actually have disciplinary control over the team. I think that's huge, mate, because I think in the future, like, you know how it is in sports, almost every great all-time coach had that ability. You know what I mean? Like, Alex Ferguson's giving people the hairdryer treatment, mate, when you're just screaming in people's faces. Like, that's just part and parcel of being, like, the best coach and being because all point is you don't do it every time. So I do think he's killed it again. Like, this is a roster where if I came, by the way, after the playoffs of winter and told everyone this BDS team will actually be better next split, and in fact they'll even beat G2, everyone's saying no chance, impossible. In fact, all the 113 haters would tell me, what, 113 is going to beat Skewmon? No way, mate. Like, I'm with you. You actually have to give props to BDS here. Like, look, we've already elucidated. There's certainly some problems for G2. There's some issues there. I even think, by the way, one thing that's a bit scary for me with G2 is, bro, here's another thing. Where's the G2 macro? Like, you know, I was talking there about game 2, the one with the Xin Zhao. What about game 1 where they did that, like, bizarre, like, attempt to, like, base race with two people while not fighting the dragon. Like, that was one of those moments, mate, I found really jarring, because in League, normally, I actually find that's where the top teams are always ahead. Back in the day, if you had like TSM Bjergsen, they're always the ones in the base race making the right decision, and then they get there first. Like, this was like, you just misexecuted two things. Like, you didn't have time to push the towers down when one person came back, irrelevant, and then you didn't get the dragon either, and then you just lost the dragon and then lost both fights. Like, that's the sort of thing where, look, you can certainly make a brain fart last year, but I feel like in general, as a team, they're just a little bit off the pace, as we say in English. Like, they're just not the best team. I will say, as I said at the beginning, though, fuck knows who is the best team, because like on paper it probably should be Fnatic, but they did lose that series to SK, which is like, and then the KCorp one. I just said, in fact, you know what? Do you want to transition to KCorp? Should we talk about KCorp? Because I just want to say this. I want to ask you about this, Yamato. Right? They are 5-1, and their one loss is that really banger series to Fnatic, right? By the way, that's acceptable to lose to Fnatic. But here's the craziest thing. When I go back and look, bro, almost all their wins could have been losses, for real. Like, think about this recent GX series, by the way. Immediate fucking assist on that one, just for why they're fucking drafting that Akali like that. Like, what? And all the hunting guys, because that one's already a sus one. The one against fucking Heretics, bro. Heretics, that's an example of what I said earlier. They're like BDS. They almost had that one, mate. They just couldn't, they didn't have the sort of strength to knock them out at the end, basically. They played an awesome series. The BDS one itself was close. Oh, mate, they're all, this team, look, on paper, they're number one right now. And I do think they've got a very good chance still to be top three, go to MSI. But, mate, this team, we were talking about it last week, like that team fighting, it's getting you out of trouble now, but it's like the old classic thing that Chowster famously said to Doublelift back in the day. Doublelift supposedly did a move in the game where he got in like a really bad spot in a team fight, but then he did like, some insane mechanics and like, in this analogy, imagine he was on Vayne and he like tumbled out and he did all perfect kiting, and then at the end, Chowster basically told him like, don't do that. And Doublelift was like, nah, it doesn't matter though, I got out of it. And he was like, yeah, but a good player wouldn't get himself into that situation in the first place. Like, that's what I want KCorp to understand, because right now at this level, you're getting away with it. Like, you're right. If you play Heretics or you play maybe even Koi if they're on the wrong week, or you play a BDS, you can steal that win when they have you like backs against the wall. The problem is, if you go to MSI, and that is anyone's legend, Hanwha, like GenG, that ain't going to happen, mate. Like, when they get in that position, they're just going to win the game. Like, it's just going to be... So I'm like a little bit scared for KCorp right now, Yamato, especially when you add in as well, they are the reigning champions, but they look like, quite frankly, it's a topic we talked about, they look a bit burned out, mate. They look like actually, they're not hitting all cylinders like they were in the last split. What do you think of KCorp?
No, the main thing for me, I think they especially in last split, they followed a very set recipe in how they drafted. It was always very, very high CC kind of champions like Maokai, Skarner, Vi in the jungle that offered a lot of utility because they'd never played tank stop because that didn't work for them. And the same thing in the support position. And then there was a set list of what, of course, Vladi would be able to carry on. And Kalis was basically like the player who was very flexible in his draft. And now coming into this split, it seemed like their main idea was, we're going to just expand our champion pool. But it's very difficult to do so because when you pull something in and you put something in like Akali, it changes the whole structure of what everyone's role on the team is going to be. We don't see a lot of Akali, like there was the rare one today into the Yone blind, which is just serving as a counter. We don't see that many like Yone players necessarily in the LEC. We don't see that much Sylas either, unless it's a counter. It's like the mages can be played and they can revert back to, of course, that structure that worked in winter. They always have that in the back pocket. But now in this pursuit of trying to elevate more, the jungle support in terms of how they dominate the map and how they play the early game, there seems to be a very, just a lack of game plan in terms of how they want to set up the first dragon, the first grub. I don't see any proactive swaps that we see in for example, the LPL or LCK in regards to setting up the grubs. They never kind of carry any momentum in the game. They never create scenarios where they have pushing lanes and then they transfer that pressure to one another. Their early games are just so damn bad across the board. I was so surprised that you have the team at the top of the league have a negative average gold at 15. That's a crazy statistic to have as a team that is leading the league. So in my mind there, the main thing that is missing is the jungle and the support thing. We've seen many teams trying to branch out from what they are good at and failing miserably. That's it's a very, very common trend. We've seen that with great teams, we've seen that with bad teams, but I feel like now they are always, as they're trying to adjust to these new layers in the draft, they seem to not understand what to pair together with those drafts. Because like if you're playing like Akali together with Bard in that game 3, it's like, what are we looking for? You know, it seems like as they are adding new things, they don't understand which things they need to add around them. And as they add those new things and add those things around them, they don't understand how it changes from how they regularly play. And I think that breaks them out of the habit that was so good in winter. So the main question now is like they have 2 weeks off and then they play only Rogue. In these 3 weeks, will them playing no save matches, will this be fruitful for them? Or will it just distance them from like the main issue that they are facing? Because they're reaching the point where they kind of need to buckle down and kind of figure things out, because I do feel like the teams around them are actually actively progressing. I think that's the coolest part about the LEC, is that we actually see week-to-week improvement on things that would have...
Especially, by the way, like you're saying, the mid-table is fucking fire right now, mate. Regs,
Yeah.
Vitality, BDM. These teams are cooking, bro. Even SK is still not bad. Like, there's some pretty good teams out there. Actually, even, you know what? Even Rogue is actually having some all right games. It's actually, I'm with you, mate. Aside from the top of the league, it's actually fire LEC right now. I'm really enjoying it.
For sure. I was like, now, as the other teams are like progressing fast, you can't carry like really good momentum all the way through. It's like the previous format was so fast and rapid that teams couldn't really improve. And whoever figured out that recipe in terms of where you function the fastest would, of course, thrive. And that was KC in winter. They got punched in the mouth by G2 very early on, but they trade like that Draven draft, the Sion draft, and so forth. And then they were like, oh, we need to figure out what works for us and just stick to it. And I think to this day, if that G2 series would go longer, that finals, G2 just ran out of steam. But the fact that KC got to play only 3 games was really beneficial for them, because they could keep themselves within that structure. In the game 4 and 5s, that's where it gets deeper. And we saw that, of course, in the Fnatic game 2, when they played game 5. Luckily, Fnatic gave everything away, right, with the MF Lulu and Volibear, but that is what KC is preparing for in my mind. Those best of 5s that are going to go to game 4 and 5, and what are the additional layers that they can go to. But if I'm in KC's shoes right now, I would think more about how to elevate the bot lane in those deeper series, because that's where I think Targama's playing range champions, and his depth, as we saw at, of course, First Stand, would be the biggest benefit. And I think that they should just maintain the same kind of 1-2-3 identity, rather than trying to branch out too hard into the melee champions and playing carry junglers, because I think there's enough setup to play in the jungle position, enough Zinza, Pantheons. Like, these champions play a very streamlined game, rather than playing, for example, Lilia, that kind of changes the whole structure of how you want to play. So I think there is still a lot of good things about KC. I do think that they can solve it, but I wonder how they're just going to manage these 3 weeks, because it's such a weird position to be in. You're the only team that practically has 3 weeks off, which is very strange.
Thing is, though, by the way, I will say Labrov clearly has played way worse this split than he did at First Stand, and then obviously like when there was the lane swaps at last split. But actually, the player I want to ask you about, the obvious player to me, is actually fucking Yike. Bro, remember what I told you? The crazy narrative 180 was 1 second before the final of LEC Winter. The narrative was G2 fucked up swapping Labrov. They should have kept Mickey, and Scumon's fine. And then after the final, it was like, hey, I guess it's Yike that they actually missed. Why did they sign this Scumon guy? Because Scumon had a bad final, and Yike, obviously, his team won. Mate, that take already was a bit whack anyway, in my opinion, because it's just not an accurate take. Like, it was totally, I think almost everyone in the scene was fine with them moving on from Yike. He's an older player. You've seen what his strengths are. Also, by the way, I also don't think his strengths were super fit to that specific G2 team. I think it was a role where I don't blame them for wanting to change. Look, I was shocked they took a rookie, but to be fair, when I've seen him, he is cracked. I can see why they picked Scumon. He does look like a mega talent. And notice he's not just a talent, guys. Like, he's not just 1-1-3 with hands. He also seems like he has a macro understanding. That's actually exciting. That is something I look for in the future. But I've got to say, Yamato, bro, Yike has looked like a bit of a fraud these last few weeks. Like, everyone's seen, like, obviously even fans have picked up, like, it's mainly his visor problem, but there's bigger issues, mate. Like, remember, this guy was being heralded as, like, he's the veteran, he's the captain, he's the winner in this team, mate. He's the one who's been the champion all these years. Like, he has something, there's something a bit odd. Like, what do you think? Why do they keep forcing all these Vi games, for example? What do you think's going on with that angle? Because to me, he has been a little bit up and down for me.
It's strange, because the spring Yike reminds me of last year's Yike, because there were many games as well where G2 last year had very, very bad early games where there was like a lot of overreaches on the invades, kind of misreads in terms of what fights to go for, misreads on when the timing invades come in both directions, in his direction or the opposite direction, and he kind of just got away with it. I think it's strange that he's reverting back to that level of play. But I think it just comes down to the main thing that I hammered home before. I don't see any level of cooperation between Targamas and Yike right now. I think this is something that they did so well earlier on, and I think this is something that they figured out super, super well. I think that top esports series where they 2-0 really stood out to me as, oh, they really, really figured out like the timings on how to build advantages and so forth. But now that is just completely missing. I think always when it comes to a team that is doing poorly in the early game, it always comes back to the jungler. So like Yike is the one with the agency. Nobody else has agency. And one thing that could be the potential hope for this team is that in a world where the Spirit Blossom patch lands and it comes mid-spring, that will streamline the game very, very easily for them. Because I think with Spirit Blossom coming through, and knowing that grubs only spawn at 8 or either 10 minutes and everything's going to be about dragons, all Yike really needs to do is just take his camp stop side, right-click bot, right-click bot, right-click bot. Right. And I think streamlining their early game is exactly like what they are missing, because I'm of the opinion that first 6 minutes of the game should be completely scripted. Unless your laners are bad, and I don't think that's necessarily the case, even though there's some blunders here and there in terms of how they set up vision, and sometimes it's just dying to ganks that they shouldn't die to. I do think that falls on Yike, and I think this is something we've seen from Yike in the past, so it's not completely surprising.
Like, the good news is, in a way, even though it's a negative that the team leading the league has these flaws and some of their players are looking a bit sus, the good news, like I said earlier, is there are the teams to actually beat them if they're not good enough. Like, if they can still beat if they can still beat G2 and Fnatic and get one of those MSI spots, then I'm fine with it in that sense, because at least there's actually people can challenge them now. And even that whole, like, their team fight, well, let's see that team fighting in a playoff. I'm with you, Bit. Here's what I want to see, Yamato. I want to see a best-of-5 playoff series between either KC and Fnatic or KC and G2, and I'm with you. I don't care about game 1, bro. I just want to see game 4. Send me to game 4, because I'm with you, especially in Fearless Draft. Game 4 and game 5, I like that thing. You know, in the UFC where they would keep only main events and title fights had 5 rounds, and they called round 4 and 5 the championship rounds because it's like extra time you have to fight for. And so obviously people who've already fought a 3-round fight, they're not used to it, so they gas out. Like, I think that term, I agree with you. In the playoffs, like going to round 4 and round 5 in Fearless Draft, that is where you, as we say in English, separate the men from the boys, mate. That's where you can see who can fuck around and sort of like, because the thing you have to remember in a BO3 is you actually only have to have a playable draft 2 out of 3 times. Just two games. It's way more to say I have to have a playable draft 3 out of 5 times. That doesn't sound like much more to a fan. That is way harder to actually, because think about it, in Fearless especially, we've pointed this out at the beginning of the year, but there's so many other factors you can't plan for. Like the thing you were going to draft on game 4 and game 5, actually he banned that on he played that in game 1 and then it got banned out of the rest. You know what I mean? Like that shit like that's too hard to predict for. So I think the KC one's interesting, but let's go. We did the other 2. Let's go and do Fnatic then. Because here's the problem, Yamato. They haven't done anything wrong. Aside from all weeks ago when they lost to SK, they've done nothing wrong, Yamato. They keep winning all these games. If you ever watched the game they played against Rogue this last week, I know everyone's going to meme on Rogue, but first of all, as we were talking about, mate, Rogue has given actually this split a lot of close games to teams. Like, they're doing a BDS themselves, mate. They're actually in a lot of these matches. They're winning a lot of games, actually. It's kind of surprising. But if you watch the way Fnatic played them, bro, they just crushed them. Like, if you want, like, first of all, they just made Rogue be Rogue and do nothing for most of the game. And at the end, Rogue decided to do, like, one Atakan fight on game 1 or whatever, and he's got their head smashed in. Like, they actually played a fairly disciplined game here. This is the sort of game where I would have worried last split. You know, you'd go all in and try and, like, smurf on them, and doing so you'd throw the game or you'd give a game. Actually, they just sort of, like, slowly ground them out. If anything, it's more if I'm on the Rogue side. Like, what were you hoping was going to happen? Where were you going to get given this game? So, the one thing is, the real issue for Fnatic, you know this is a former Fnatic coaches, it's not actually present in the server now. It's that people think in their mind they have a ghost when they come to the playoffs. And people still, until they do it, Yamato, they're not going to believe them. Even when they start in the playoffs, even if they win the opening round and the upper semis, everyone's going to wait for them to play G2 or KC and then fall apart and collapse and then go, haha, I told you so. But right now, admittedly, I've done this 1 million times top esports internationally. Right now, You can't actually say that, Yamato. Right now, I have to actually look. I actually do think ITIS-wise are the best team in LEC right now. What do you think?
I agree completely. I made this video, right, just giving my LEC thoughts, and I posted on YouTube. And then G2's social media manager responded, "Thank God we're back on Fnatic better than G2 expectations. Time to make space in our trophy cabinet."
I love it. Okay, that's well memed. Well memed, sir. Well memed.
I think if there's any like layer of difference, is that I actually think that their mid game is a lot cleaner. Like a lot cleaner.
Oh, for sure,
I agree, you know, we're still not in the playoffs yet. And we saw even last split, the regular season was really good besides that fucking Skana game they gave away to Koi. And that could have been the equivalent of the SK game here in the best of threes. But it is best of threes. And I think that's the cool part. Like the KC series showed a lot of depth. And I think that one is like the biggest win for them in terms of just showing level of play. But Humanoid is looking fantastic. I think they have a really good draft read. And the main thing I just want to bring up again is just Duffman. Duffman helped G2's mid-game super much, and he was praised by everybody involved. And he's like a kind of a mid-game macro specialist, and he loves to, of course, focus in and hone in on that. And I think that this seems to have a very, very big and positive effect on how Fnatic is playing out games, because I think in terms of like lane, and in terms of how they play with jungle support around mid lane in particular, I think this makes them the most dangerous in terms of like creating leads. I think also they have like a very good depth of play in terms of the champion range that they can play. And as long as they transition those leads well into mid to late game, I think it's like in their hands to actually be the best team in the league. Because KC, it's like they are out team fighting people late into the game, but there is a certain level of risk that you take there that, you are assuming that you can outplay somebody, while Fnatic is in the driving seat because their early games are pretty damn tight and fucking good. So I'm with you. Fnatic right now look like the best. They play against G2. Maybe the timing to play against G2 in this Madrid weekend maybe is the worst one, because G2 just got smoked by BDS. It seems to be that G2 bounced back really, really well from the losses. But I think that Fnatic should be a fucking heavy favorite in that series. And I think it would be borderline an upset for G2 to win if it wasn't for all the fucking history and the baggage that this matchup carries.
Right, by the way, I actually do have something. I'll link it here, the actual article itself, so you can click on it and scroll down. Just do like a Control F for Razork, and you'll find the part I wanted to show you.
Yeah.
So I linked this already because I thought this was perfect timing to do this. Because by the way, I'm with you. That's even why. You ready for this is like the EU equivalent of the IG Corpium. Are you ready, Yamato? Here's the Corpium of why Fnatic will win this split and go to MSI. Because you just said it. If you think of the profile of the three teams, at the moment, G2 has issues in the mid game. Well, in that case, it's going to suck if Fnatic's ahead on them, aren't they? And KC at the moment pulls it out with team fights at the end. Bro, if there's one team could beat them team fighting, it's probably Fnatic. And Fnatic's going to be a lead in the game. So, and like I said, even this road game, they actually grinded them out. Like I'm fairly impressed with like the control. I think of Fnatic last split, they just tried to knock everyone out, mate. They just went fucking crazy and just bomb rushed everyone and were going hands immediately. Like, they've actually shown a bit of discipline now. I like it. But anyway, there was an article done. It's on lcsprofiles.com. And it's listed as being the NA men, aka Narman people. It's actually that person, that Arsh Goyle guy, wrote that like nonsense rewrite of Richard Lewis's Danny piece years ago. But here's the thing: I'm always a fair person, you have to. If someone does something separately that's good, I'll give him credit. So he's done an interview with Inspired from FlyQuest. It's a fairly in-depth interview. Like, he gives like some quite long answers sometimes. And there's a part I linked because I want to show Yamato this, where they ask Inspired, who listen. I love me some Inspired, mate. All over some Inspired. I even used to think he was actually underrated when he was even on Rogue. People used to treat him like he was a fucking bomb just because they weren't winning. But the funny thing is, he does that himself to all the EU junglers in this interview. So in this interview, he goes full Bwippo and just does that thing where even though you're sat in the fucking kids pool, you're watching people in the real Olympic pool going, he's not quite that fast, is he? It's like, you're in the kids pool. Who are you playing against, fuckface? What? This guy's toast. Shut the fuck up. So anyway, in this, that's why I'm adjusting like he's in the call. Anyway, so there's a section, I told you, Control F, and they asked him about EU junglers, and he says this. He says, I don't think Razork is that good. I think he's been playing for Fnatic for so long, and he's had so many good teammates. There was a lot of points where the other teams were looking pretty weak, and he never managed to win a season. I think that's pretty disappointing, if you ask me. And I just had a pretty weak memory of playing against him. I think every time I faced him, he was doing just fine or just like not too good. So he never really impressed me. Right, 2 quick things to say there, Inspired. 1, you were in the LEC, dumb fuck. You weren't winning either. What are you talking about, bruh? If we compare his roster to yours, he had Humanoid. Yeah, you had Larson. He had who fucking... by the way, who did he even have on his rosters? What? He had Noah. Oh, holy shit. That's not even that great, mate. So I don't even get this take, mate. Because what's weird is, he did notice what he didn't do, Yamato. Like, by the way, the angle I love about the interview is saying, like, when he faced him, he didn't think it was that strong. That's interesting. I'm always interested in that take. Like, what does it feel like on the other guy on the server? Like, if you think they're overrated, let me know. But what I don't get is why he reverted to he hasn't won a split. It's like, you didn't, mate, you'd have 0 fucking rings right now if you were in a EU. Look, I'd love to see you try. I'd love to see you walk into this Fnatic team and see what had happened. Would you be great? Would you? But it's all well and good saying it in interviews. I want to know what you take it, because this thing, we always say, Yamato, we want players to trash talk and be spicy. So I'm not hating on it. I do love this as an interview answer, but fucking hell, is it spicy though? It's a hell of a take. Like, this should be on my hot take show. I don't think Razork is check notes that good. Like, but what? Compared to what? Okay, so come on, give me your thoughts. What do you think of this? It's kind of spicy, mate.
Well, the main thing is like the times he played against him was during Razork's Misfits time. So that's when he played, because after that, Inspired left. And then there was the one time we played against EG in the BO1 where we beat them at the World Championship in play-ins pretty much. So that's like his history of playing, which is a very, very long time ago. I think in terms of calling Razork not good, I do think that if you want to isolate like the highlight reel of like the mistakes that Razork do, they look very ugly. Like there's like certain cities, like for example that Volibear in the game 5, like that's fucking unforgivable. Or the Vi game that he had against G2 where he just kept ulting in against Swain. I think those, if you just isolate his mistakes and compare it to some of the other junglers, they like look insanely ugly. It's kind of like the Doran problem almost, where Doran is in general like pretty damn solid in the league. He's not Zeus, he's not Keen, but his mistake looks so damn ugly that everybody just hates him. Obviously, this is the most extreme version of the example, but I think the same thing can be like applied for Razork. And I think from Inspired's point of view, I imagine that, because I feel the same way, 2022 summer, that was like a split that we should have fucking won. And I imagine from Inspired's point of view, I left Rogue and now they win a split because fucking Razork is not fucking beating Rogue. What the fuck are they doing? Because G2 didn't really play the meta. I'm just being as charitable as possible. You know? So I can see there is truth to it, right? There's truth to it, but I think often like if there would be like nuance, maybe it's just like his current form and what he saw in the winter playoffs. Because if you isolate that, I think the winter playoffs were quite kind of fucking bad for Razork. I wonder if but I also see your point of view in terms of blaming or putting that on Razork when Fnatic didn't win championship against like the G2 of the last 2 years. Razork not winning there when he was playing with like Reckless or Advian or Rox and Noah as well. Like I think putting the blame on Razork in that context when he was arguably like the best jungler in a lot in a very, very large period of that, I think is kind of silly. But
I'd go the other way on that. I would even just tell Inspired, bro, I actually would make the opposite argument. I think G2 had a better roster of players, not by loads, but they had a better roster of players the whole time period he's talking about, Yamato. And yet, didn't almost everyone, to a man who's an expert, agree? They still thought Razork was better than the G2 jungler. And the G2 jungler was winning every split, every fucking BO5. And in theory, it was like all LEC. And everyone still agreed. Like, here's all you need to know. People didn't even used to say Razork was the best jungler, Yamato. They used to just say he's the second best player in the LEC. Essentially, if you're not called caps, everyone agreed it was probably Razork's the next best. Here's why I get it though, Yamato. In a weird way, if you think about their strengths and their styles, again, like in this scenario, what Inspired is doing is just looking at what Razork isn't. So Inspired is like a super fucking cerebral player who knows when to slow it down, and he knows how to grind out a small edge, and he knows like, oh, I would like tactical outplay you. So the problem is he's looking at Razork and he doesn't see those things. So those aren't really Razork's strengths. But I found it a bit weird because I thought he was like overly negative when he explains after this, like the fact that essentially he thinks if you don't play like aggressive with really strong teammates, that he like describes Razork as like a lose condition. I think that is mad, bro, because here's my problem. What I would say is this. Yes, Razork doesn't do certain things Inspired does, but I'll tell you right now, mate, I'm a massive Inspired fan. Inspired also doesn't play the way Razork does. The difference is Inspired would never even attempt some of these super aggro demon time games that like Razork does. And here's my problem. I do think that this is the reason why I'm bringing this up as well, Yamato, is I think these are the two junglers who I actually do want to see internationally, but for different reasons. I do think actually that Razork can do the like sort of like super hands LPL jungler, like, oh my god, he's just fucking like Jun in his part. You can just do a fucking hands and beat anyone in the team fight. But I also think Inspired reminds me of like the LCK Megamind junglers, bro, where they control the game and they never seem like they're behind, even when they are behind in CS or the lanes are behind. They always somehow like have a plan for where to go next, where to path to. But it's just one of those funny examples because I would have hoped they do the thing where, you know, you compliment the person for what they have that you don't, etc. But he's kind of actually, he almost looks a bit insecure, mate. Like he's like trying to be like, hey, you guys think Razork's good? You fucking marks. He's no Inspired, you know? It's like, really, bro? And I know what you mean, because I could say the same thing, Yamato, about Malrang that I could about what you said about Shio earlier. I'll bet if you're Inspired, like you say, and he left to EG, and then he turns around and watches Malrang win the split, you go, I could have done that. It's like, yeah, but it's like the Shio example. You wouldn't have put Rogue into the position that they then won the championship from. The whole point is Malrang was the lunatic who gave up all his pathing, all his builds, all his fucking CS. He just did anything the lane told him to do. That isn't your game, Inspired. In fact, that's not even vaguely your game. I would say one of your biggest strengths is you are the jungler that says, no, I'm not doing that. I'm making the call on this one, and I'm doing this path, or I'm going to the top lane in 2 minutes or something like that. So I think it's just one of those interesting examples of where, like I said, I do want this to happen, by the way. I actually think it's awesome when players have the balls to actually say, I think that guy's overrated, or here's the reason, here's what I've seen in the game that he's not good at. I'm just shocked because it's kind of like, I think he goes too far on this one, bro. Like, he makes Razork sound just like, all right. Because that whole angle of like, he had the better team, it's like, you're making it sound like he's played on GenG or something, bro. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have that good. He had good teammates, but he didn't have that good. It wasn't like criminal the level of teammates he had. Come on.
I would add as well that I do think like they are very contradicting in how they play. Like I think Inspired is so damn good in controlled games, and that's where those type of games that are already won are definitely games where Razor could, you know, potentially be a problem, as we saw like the G2 series. So I know where that is coming from. But also, I think the main criticism towards Inspired that I would have is that I think that when lanes don't go as they should, or there are certain like fires that need to be put out, and you know the apex of the game, like the moment that is approaching that is going to be decisive, he is not the one to really break out and break form in order to find, you know, the chaos that is going to bring them back. In terms of how FlyQuest is, obviously Bwipo is that factor for them, and I think in terms of how that roster is built, it functions super well. The main thing for me that I would give to Inspired is that I could see a world where Inspired could work on this Fnatic too, just because they have Mickey, right? So from that perspective, I could also see from Inspired shoes that, oh, if I was on this current Fnatic roster, that they would win because Razork did actually hold them down in winter. So if he looks at those isolated incidents, I know where he's coming from, but definitely I'm with you in giving him some leeway, Razork, when there was some championship runs that they just couldn't succeed, not only because of Razork, mostly because of Ezreal's getting caught and really crazy things going down later on in the game in terms of a choke job. But I do think that you know, his comparison to Skymond, like it's understandable that he really likes Skymond, because Skymond is very similar.
Yes,
it's very similar. It's like very precise in the way they clear. They don't break form. They don't add like a crazy layer of creativity. They want to be like, if I want to take these two camps, you're slow pushing out the bot wave. We can set up a dive, but we're not going to elevate that risk in the game. While there's going to be circumstances where the enemy elevates the risk and they do something outside of the norm, where let's say they level 3 gank and they break something, and then you need to kind of adjust. That's, I think, where Inspired's playstyle will be the most challenged. But there's been moments where I think Inspired in his career, especially in that EG year where they won the split with Danny, when he played with Danny specifically, he did adjust himself to be like on bot, because his game plan was like, oh, if Danny's ahead, I can do anything, and he did like level 3 ganks, level 2 ganks, so like he was just perma bot. So it's like it's kind of, he has a game idea and he wants to play that out, and he is a very, very powerful force in doing so, especially comms wise too. But we saw at the World Championship that sometimes when lane phases don't go as they should, you need to be there to cover. You need to be there to shake things up again. And I think that would be like the main criticism. But I think Inspired is a jungler's jungler, you know? All junglers are going to love someone like Inspired.
No.
So it's a very interesting conversation. Very interesting conversation for sure.
Yeah, but the part I hate about it is this, Yamato. It's like I said, what I think he hasn't accounted for there is, you can still think it's overrated and Razork has all these problems. But what I think he didn't do a good enough job elaborating on is, it's not just like he says, Yamato, like if he plays aggressive and he has good teammates. No, it's not just the teammates all pressing fucking forward with the mouse, mate. Like, but you have to give it up to Razork. That Razork has something that I think is very unique in games, which is it's actually what Hillesang had at his prime. There's a kind of mindset you have to go for the genius play that no one else sees. You know that quote? It's one of my favorite quotes of all time, Yato. It's the one that says something like, talent can hit a target no one else can hit, but genius can hit a target no one else knows exists. That's what people like. Right? By the way, in that sense, Razork actually does remind me of old school. We've talked about a million times in the show, but we're going to keep doing that. Spoiler. If you wonder, why does Dom talk about Piglet? Yeah, why would Dom bring up an actual world champion Korean he was literally teammates with and lived in a team house with? Yeah, crazy guys. He must be weird bringing that up. Why doesn't he just bring up Chex Nuts? Certi from Dignitas. Shut up, you fucking audience. So, of course, we're going to talk about the same people. So, spoiler, he actually does remind me of when people used to also do the same thing to Selfmade. They'd point out all the things that Selfmade wasn't, and I'd be like, yes, but you still have to acknowledge he does have like a level of like genius for aggressive play that like no one else has. And if you have that, that can be your win condition. Yeah, maybe it's not the style you want if you're Inspired, because Inspired is more the fucking ex-Smithy Yankos type play, you know, but you have to still acknowledge there's some genius there. And the real problem is, in some ways, he's almost tapped into what Razork's issue is there, mate, which is it's really hard when you have those players, whether it's Selfmade, whether it's Hillesang, it's really hard to tell them, just don't go in on this play, because you don't know if that's the genius play that time, right? It's a dilemma of being a coach in a sense, right?
No, definitely. I think it's like taking the win. Like Inspired is the master of taking the win. I see many times where it's like, oh, they're stacking wave, they can dive, has a free kill here if he just R's and flashes. But he's like, oh, but the Drake is spawning at 130, I'm gonna keep my condition. The enemy guy already needs to base. Like he is very, very good at like understanding the details of the game that are going to win you the game. When the game can be simplified to those factors. I think that the main thing Inspired's got going on for himself, like if I do make a comparison right now, I do think Inspired is definitely like in the conversation of just being like the best Western jungler. So he has like a little bit of a leash to talk his shit, definitely. But I think with a player like Razork, there's definitely like moments where that was really frustrating to me, where it's like, oh fuck me, like I just wish you saw how much we are gaining here, and you didn't need to pull out this 4-5 angle. And then it's like, and then he's explaining the math of what he was trying to achieve. And if people just played it just right, then it would have been good. But there are definitely games where you're like, oh, fuck me, Razor just did that and we just have a free win. Harnessing that is insanely difficult, because it's not something necessary that you coach. You want people to have the ability to have fun in the games, you know? You want them to, be playful in the way they approach things. And I think Razor is definitely that. But, once again, you have to take the good with the bad. And I think now we are at the point where Razork is one of the most experienced junglers in the whole league, considering Jankos is out and he's been around for a very, very long time. And I think with that, if we want to look at Razork's development, I think him having the discipline is definitely something that we should expect at this point in terms of his career, because he's no longer like the young guy that moved from Misses to Fnatic. Like, he has a lot of fucking Fnatic years under the belt. This is his fourth. And looking at his opponents, it's Yike and Skumon. These are guys are the rookies. They are supposed to be the wild guns. So I think with this Fnatic roster, it would be insanely fucking painful to see another split where they would lose to over-aggression. Like, that would be just... I think the Fnatic orc is just done then. It's just over.
Yeah. No, by the way, I do think this year's roster, you could make a lot of those comments about. I just think it was a bit unfair. I think it was especially unfair when he's talking about the previous 2 years where he had like Noah and John and stuff. Like, give me a fucking break. Like, what, he's supposed to win? Like, he was supposed to win when, like you say, he had Rekus and Adrian. Shut the fuck up, mate. Shut the fuck up. It's what fucking rich talk. But like I say, I do like it though, because here's what I actually do hate in League, Yamato, is that actually most players are very scared to talk, not just about rivals, but people who are really good. Like, you never will say, even though I know they do think it, Yamato, oh, don't worry, just like Froggen, there are mid laners that think Larson's a pussy, and that he just fucking farms in lane, and why doesn't he go for the solo polo, and why doesn't he roam more? They're all the same crap, but here's the difference, they won't ever say it in an interview, mate. Because they know, like, oh shit, what if he looks good next week? Well, not now in Rogue, but you know what I mean? Like, they're all worried about looking bad that one. Essentially, everyone's scared to do the Gyoto, and it just gets brought up to you again forever, this one quote. But here's the more interesting thing to say, though, Yamato. Well, the good news is, though, bro, we have a tournament coming up soon where East plays West and EU can play NA, and it's a BO5 tournament. So all I'm saying is this, oh, glory. Give me a FlyQuest Fnatic BO5, homie. That's all I want. All I want is that cinema, because that would actually be unironically sick, but I'd love to see that series. Think about all the matchups you'd have, upset against fucking Masao. You'd have, it'd be fucking sick, mate. It'd be very good. That could actually be a banger series.
No, I'm hyped as fuck. And I don't think this interview is on like the Whipple level of crazy. You know?
It isn't, of course. No,
it's like it's inspired. I think it was a fair angle, you know. But I'm very charitable towards players, you know. I'm very charitable.
Interviews are like, yeah. So anyway, the other day, you won't believe this, but I've heard Hillesang doesn't even like human. I overheard him saying it in confession to the priest, like, that's what we're doing now, bro. Like, this guy became, bro, you remember that when he just started leaking private conversations Hillesang had with him? Like, what? So anyway, no, this is just a take, mate. This is just a spicy thing. And also, what I also do appreciate is Inspired is actually nailing how branding is supposed to work, mate, because this is who Inspired is. But notice he's doing it in a way where it doesn't. Here's the thing, it actually doesn't. By the way, I'm not mocking him like I mocked Doublelift in his interviews. This doesn't come off as an idiotic comment. It just comes off as like a very, like, you have to be in his head to see it from his perspective. But it's a very, I actually believe it's an honest comment, bro. I think he genuinely does believe this. And by the way, this is exactly what you either hate or love about Inspired. He has very strong opinions, mate. Yes, fucking strong. The difference is what Inspired teaches you guys that I want everyone to really appreciate, and I'm being serious right now, is how incredibly polished Jankos became as a player. Because I can tell you, when Jankos began as a jungler, by the way, he was this cocky, like, Polish fucking jungler who was going head to head with diamond procs and stuff, and he himself didn't know it. But over the years, he became amazing on camera, and he actually got so that in the modern day, like, the joke is, if you ever listen to his comment where he, like, said he wasn't involved in my Reckless video, dude, he didn't dispute any of the stuff I said in the video, but he said it in such a professional manner, people actually thought he put the fire out. They were just sort of like, oh no, he wasn't. But if you ever go read what he said, he almost sort of just implied that, yeah, I had my issues, but I wasn't involved with this video. Like, the difference is, Inspired is way more raw, bro. He's more like someone finishes an EU West solo queue game if they actually told you what they thought. That's Inspired, bro. This guy's just fucking... But I love it because he's actually sort of nailed, like, you notice he's never gone over the line. He's just given strong opinions, and compared to LTA players, by the way, this is a breath of fresh air. Like, I'll give them credit. They've got one or two. They've got the APAs of the world. They used to have Jojo, but this guy and Whippo do carry the fucking league when they get on a mic, mate. Like, that's half the cinema right there. It's better than some of the games.
Yeah, for sure. I would also add Spawn to the mix because Spawn is also kind of based.
Yeah,
I like on the Sackdown. I love the fact when I mentioned that APA said that people, nobody is replaceable, and then Spawn's like, no, everybody's replaceable. I'm replaceable. We're trying to win, and I thought that was so fucking based, you know, because I think people are sometimes afraid to just publicly disagree with their teammates sometimes, or disagree with the direction, or just say that, oh, we're playing bad right now and we need to fix it. Because one thing that aged so damn well was this whole fucking Jensen thing, where everyone was up in arms about him, like having comments about how Jensen played in the game, called him vegan and shit. And then they went to MSI and were complete ass. And then they brought in Quad, who was doing well in the Challenger series over in America. And then they fucking won the split. So it's like his takes, they age pretty fucking good. So I'm excited for that matchup. In the jungle head-to-head, I would give Inspired the edge now, but I think in terms of team, I would think that Fnatic has just the potential highest ceiling, but fucking Fnatic and themselves being their worst enemy. Who knows?
No, but I'm with you though. It's like, come on, listen, Inspired. Your problem is you've gotten a little bit too comfortable playing and contracts and fucking, you know. All I'm going to say is this: didn't Blabber just give you that work? Razork's a better Blabber. There you go. I like them apples, mate. So you know what? Anytime you feel like it, Inspired, here's a formal invitation. Come back to the LEC. We'll welcome you back with open arms. We'll give you a hero's welcome, like when Maximus came in the fucking Roman gladiator with all your laurels. People, obviously, in this case, and you'll need this. You'll need that, like the young slave boy, to get on the chariot with you and whisper in your ear, "You are but a mortal jungler. You are not yet Yankos himself." And then he'll go, "Oh yeah, shit, but he can take self-awareness. Yeah, that's true." But all I'm saying is, I'll put you head to head with fucking Razork any day. I'd like to see the match, by the way. I also think it's just a great match of styles too, just totally different style of strength in it. But I do think to myself, bro, could you imagine if we actually had Inspired back in Europe? Now we would be cooking, bro. You know what I mean? Like, mate, put him on fucking. I look, people won't like him, but put him in fucking Yank spot, mate, and they'll run the league. That team would be unbelievable. Imagine if he could service that bot lane every game. That'd be insane, wouldn't it? So, no, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about LTA, actually. Because obviously, they're still doing it, Yamato. They're still doing it. The biggest problem with LTA is this. Everyone, ever since the JoJo was late drama, has never, ever given Cloud9 like a moment of belief, basically. Everyone thinks they're sort of cooked. Part of the problem, I get it, is they didn't address whatever the issue was. Like, if the issue was shot calling stuff, clearly bringing in more Koreans didn't do anything. But I'll tell you what, Yamato, the one thing it did do, which is exactly what you'd imagine if you brought in skilled Koreans, is Cloud9 has fucking hands, though. So you put them in these BO1s, and they can upset anyone in the league. Like, they can get that BO1 off. Like, I know this team, they beat Liquid and FlyQuest, mate. What do you think of this squad, Cloud9? They're not bad. They're not bad.
I really, really enjoy this team. I feel like the main thing that was missing, surprisingly, for a lot of their games leading up to it, like even when they played against weaker teams, there was like an element of like almost fear. They just didn't pull the trigger when they had better numbers. Okay. They didn't pull the trigger when they had like, good moments to fight. It's almost like in terms of how they set things up, there wasn't like a concrete visual cue in the way they set things up. It's like, oh, if they show up in this area, we're going to snap and go. And I feel like that was like the biggest change up looking at their games in the last 2 weeks, especially that FlyQuest series. It was so painfully obvious that they agreed that we're going to go into this area and fucking send it. And then Vi ults were flying and Bessa ults were flying, and they were very, very sharp at just understanding which space is theirs. Because for a lot of time in the earlier weeks, it just seemed like they were willing to like give that up. We know now that it was a logistical nightmare, of course, the LTA winter split, which can happen, and there's a lot of things that this team needs to figure out because the other rosters simply didn't change. Besides FBI, which of course ADC is just fucking plug and play. 100 Thieves, Team Liquid, FlyQuest all stayed the same, so it was like that's passable as a loss. But now things are coming together. I think while Loki and Thanatos are like insanely impressive mechanically, and it's very clear that like especially Thanatos has a lot of individual skill, I want to give praise to Sven. Like Sven coming back now and like being in the conversation of an AD that, of course, role swapped so many times, fucking got second place in the LEC back in 2015, this is 10 years ago, at this point. The fact that he is still fucking competing and performing so damn well on a range of champions after role swapping and doing, like, that's fucking impressive beyond words. Like, that's super, super insane, especially because when we look at what's most exciting about what's going on in NA most of the time, it's just AD carries. Like Masu, Yeon is the name that always comes up in terms of where, of course, LTA can compete. And the fact that Sven is performing as good as he is so damn impressive. And it seems like finally they're coming together and understanding when they are stronger, because the macro concepts are there in terms of being in tune with the swaps, how they use the TP, how they set up for grubs, all the things were there. They just weren't willing to kind of press their buttons and let their hands go in situations where they could fight. And it seems like they kind of tapped into that version of Blabber again, and he's the one basically turning into 113 to some degree for this team and just sending it. I'm really enjoying the C9. A little bit of bias because our boy Dom is helping them out, but it feels good to see them do good, because Dom was always talking about how good they can be, especially in practice, like that they have a lot of potential.
No, I'm especially with you that like they have hands, bro. Like you've seen this when they've played the other top teams. Like that's why what has aged very poorly, unfortunately, is those very first week of the year interviews that Whippo did in LTA, where he was sort of like, "Hey, we're the big dogs who just went with GenG like 5 games, bro. Like you're all gonna have to like learn from us if you want to get." And then literally within like a week or two, they were just fucking getting beaten by these fuckers in BO1s anyway. Like what the real mistake of FlyQuest is this: NA will always be its own unique meta, and unfortunately, one thing that has always been proven will work in NA is having hands. Like, I'm with you, mate. I think Thanatos, sadly, has been underrated because he came into the flawed Cloud9 and then he replaced Fudge, who was popular. And then people can just tell he obviously doesn't do like genius calls, does each plays. But, mate, I always say this guy just reminds me, obviously they're both Korean, but it reminds me of Photon. It's just a really fucking skilled player, mate. Like, you watch them play, and if you're a fan of LCK, you're like, bro, these guys could probably go back to LCK. Like, they're just good players. Like, this is like this guy gaps most of the fucking LTA players he plays in lane. He's just good. Like, so even though, look, Cloud9 isn't a team I want to see internationally. Yamato, obviously, I'd rather TL and FlyQuest. They actually have a chance to do some macro shit. But I'll tell you what, they're going to actually make those teams earn those spots, though. That's what's cool. If you think about it, up until 100 Thieves beat Cloud9 last summer, that was like a 2-team region. It was basically TL and then maybe FlyQuest if they're good. You know, that was it. Like that was, and as you said, they had the roster moves. So you look now, like, the whole region, the top end is way better in LTA now. Like, it's actually, that's why I actually like that. It's not a circle of suck. They just have that, like, A beats B beats C beats D. They have, like, that weird combo goes around. So it's actually fun. It's why I'm glad the fucking BO1s, at least, like, we're moving past that. Because BO1, now that we've got BO3s in Europe, BO1 is really hard to watch, bro. Because you watch it and you're like, this is just rando. It's dog shit.
It's the most painful part as well is we just sat there and knew that it wouldn't matter. Like, the divide between top 4 and bottom 4 is so absurd.
Yep.
Team Liquid dropping a game against this guy's toast was completely fucking mental that happened. But the fact that the divide is there, I always thought, for some reason, when I read the format, I thought, like up until like a week ago, I thought that, we're going to have like the LPL format, that the top 4 are in one group and the bottom 4 is in one group. But I think this was just wishful thinking, because I think we're going to just have a little bit more of the same, because it's so clear which of the teams that are going to pass to the next round. It's super obvious, knowing that C9 Team Liquid is in one.
Would have been fire if they really had have done a group that was just the 4 we're talking about. That would be unbelievable. But they obviously instead they just did 2 groups, which is like I'm with you, mate. The only question is what order was number 1 and 2 in. That's about it. That's the only question, right? There's definitely going to be those 2 teams in each group. It's obvious.
No, for sure. And we would have to wait till playoffs again until we see like Fly against C9 and so forth. So they are, edging us a little bit. But I think now on the conversation of the LTA South and the LTA merger, the fact that, they're only sending 1 team is also a little bit sad, because there's a world where we don't get
I forgot that. You're right. I forgot.
There's a world where we don't get that FlyQuest fucking matchup against Fnatic. Like they don't send 2 teams. They're going to send 1 team out of LTA South. And I just don't think that's going to be a team that is comparable in terms of the level that is going to be at this competition. If the LTA South teams are getting smoked by all the LTA North teams, how the fuck are they going to look at MSI? I don't really look forward to that too much.
Yeah, by the way, if you look it up, he's right. I forgot about that. It's EWC they send top 2 from LTA, but it's only LTA winner, North, gets 1 spot. So it's actually even more crazy. Like, bro, one of FlyQuest or TL's just going to be sat there, like, watching some shit at LTA South team just get banged, going, like, can I play? Put me in the game, coach. Like, you're right, that's actually good. By the way, that's going to age very poorly when that comes around. That's going to age so poorly.
100%, bro. It's like at least whatever team that gets 2nd place in LTA North is going to be so warmed up for EWC.
True.
Be rested.
By the way, jokes aside, that is one reason I actually am glad EWC exists, though, is exactly for the reason, like as we've talked about in the past. Put it this way, because T1's a member org, there's probably somewhere they get invited anyway, bro, even if they're not top 2 in career. But I actually want to see them play still, whether they'll actually... Because, by the way, think about it. We used to literally have that back in the day with the IEMs. Remember, there was like an IEM where, like, fucking SK went and it was like All-Stars. They had one where they went... There was like one where KT Roasted Bullets went, the one where they played fucking Fnatic in the final or whatever. Like, bro, these weren't the top teams at the time. But the point is, they're still comparable to the top Western teams. It's fun to watch them play the international circuit. Like, I'm with you. Like, at least we actually do get to see that second place Delta team player tournament this summer. It's not going to be MSI, so it's at least something to watch.
There's a vacation in Saudi Arabia there. Up until the tournament, some shit.
I'm never going to overreact to a BO1, but I do think that Disguised Horse series game was fucking whack from TL, though. Holy fuck. What was that?
Well, the day before, I'm watching this guy's toast, and I said out loud, I was like, this might be like the worst major region team, like this guy's toast.
Pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Smoked by Dignitas, and I thought this team is just like, you know, this is budget on the next level. You know, this is crazy, and the fact that they beat Team Liquid is appalling. Like that shouldn't be even possible on Team Liquid's worst possible day ever. But then there's like the little caveat that people say, well, that game didn't matter for the standing, so it doesn't matter too much. And I guess there's some truth to it, but come on, you can't lose against this guy's toast. That's just not real.
Even the way they lose is just a disgrace, bro. Like, if you watch the game, at no point in the game do you ever think TL's going to lose. It's like an even game the whole way through. You're just thinking, like, right, eventually they're just going to have a big team fight. TL's going to win and the game's going to be over. And what they do is they go and the Baron's being baited, and then like they just let Impact on his own on Renekton just walk into a brush that's warded and just get killed and blown up, and then like the game, then it just gradually all falls. And you're like, what is this game? Like, bro, remember TL is the team, Yamato, a year ago that people were saying has world-class macro. You just failed the most basic Baron bait I've ever said. What is that? The fuck? That's like, look, it is only a BO1. Remember, if it was a BO3, maybe they come back and win the next 2 games, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But it was a little bit alarming to me. Like, the lack of points was nuts, mate. I thought they'd crush this team. I'm with you. I think Disguised Horse isn't even vaguely good, mate. Come on.
I think in a world now when, I think pretty much looking at the state of Team Liquid and 100 Thieves, even though there's been moments where they've shown the capacity to beat Fly and C9, I think in the current state of things, I do feel like the LTA is going to be just a 2-horse race. I would be very surprised if either C9 or Fly don't win. Like, that should be like an impossibility, especially with how like the format should shape up. Like, sure, if you lose a best of 3 to qualify in a poor way into the BO5s, then that's fully on you. Like, the randomness is out of the picture. You're not going to travel anywhere. There's no logistical nightmares. There's nothing. C9 FlyQuest should be like the finals. Anything else would be damn surprising. And if somehow Team Liquid, make it happen, once again, I'm just gonna give more medals and props to Spawn. Yay, Spawn, you are a wizard. Yes. Somehow you put this together. You're a wizard, man.
No, I'm with you. It's the same thing I do with BDS and Striker. By the way, I also agree. Like, we've done it jokingly, but I actually think it's real. If they don't go to MSI and they don't win the split and the rest of the year continues like this for Team Liquid, I would legitimately consider jungle mid support changes, rather. Jungle mid changes. Like, you can pick which one you want, but I don't think... There's the thing. It just has to be one of them. You can't have those, because here's the problem. Like, I would even argue this, Yamato. Maybe you do the umpty one first and see if it revives the APA or someone say that. But long run, the way they currently play, those 2 players aren't good enough, mate. Like, if you put them in a Worlds BO5, they're not going to beat any top team. There's no way.
It's also the weirdest part about the whole umpty recommitment is the fact that they have a staff that is capable, like they have staff and players that are capable of just making sure that anyone would be adjusted. They could like handpick any Korean import. Like they have fucking Code JJ, Impact, Rainover. Like they have the environment to set anybody up for success, while other teams would have to, fight that challenge in a very, very tricky way. It's like, for example, C9, they brought back Reaper, of course. When they brought back Thanatos, they needed to put things in place in order for it to make sense. And Team Liquid just has all the options in the world. I do think it's cool, though, that once again, like Spawn, I mentioned it before, the fact that he said that everybody is replaceable. And he mentioned it on the SAC also, that they were doing trials. They were testing different alterations to put pressure on the players. And he felt like that worked because in the end, they were like Dom and Spawn were like sharing their scrim stories, and for the longest time C9 was just destroying them. And then when they put this pressure of like another player coming in and subbing in, that they started playing better and better. So they're pulling all the stops to try to make it work. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if Team Liquid find the right candidate in the middle of the season to make that change, that they wouldn't. It seems Spawn is completely unapologetic about that approach because he seems very honest to his players. Something I want to bring up with you, because I hate it when teams and players and the community in general talk about how sad it is that players find out that they're about to get replaced during competition or during anything. For me, that's such a sack of shit because in my mind, plain and simple, it should be, as a business, as a competitor, you should plan for the future. Like if you're at the World Championship and that's going to hurt you next season somehow, you're not still doing your fucking job. And if you're not completely clear about the purpose and the job that your players have, and they somehow feel worse because they're going to potentially get replaced for the next year, you haven't set yourself up for success. Because in the end, it's like if you qualifying to Worlds is going to hurt you next year, like what are you really doing? I don't understand why the community is so fucking hell-bent on this shit. It's like a player knowing that he's going to get replaced is going to run it down now. Is that what we're assuming? Like, are they children or what? What do you think about this?
But this way, I do find that topic really annoying because 90% of the time, all you're discussing is you're just seeing someone who's a fanboy of the player over-identifying with the player only. So what he's looking at is he's putting himself in the player's shoes and he's thinking things like, but that's unfair. Like he didn't know he was going to get replaced, or, they didn't like the worst one is when you try to get a different player, but you don't get him. And in the meanwhile, you stick with this player and they're like, and you didn't even tell him they were thinking of replacing him. It's like, the problem is players, I always say, remember that line I have that like, take a player's age in esports, and because everyone's like a weird nerd just playing video games all day long, they're more immature than whatever their age is. So my thing is take the age number and subtract 5, and it'll be more like what their actual emotional age is. So if they're 20, they're actually more like a 15-year-old kid. If you understand how immature pros are, I actually do think pros can't be, what you're asking for is treat the pro like he's a true businessman and an entity and a partner, like he's partnering with your company. The problem with that is, Yamato, that's not how players behave. Like, here's the obvious angle. If you're going to say it as an org, you should like owe it to the player. You should tell him he's going to be replaced, right? First of all, there are some players might just run it down or go, oh, fucking hell, and be all moody and sulky because you told them that. So, by the way, if I'm trying to replace you, I'm going to wait until that deal is 100% done before I ever tell you. Why would I? Like, what if I have to then change my mind and actually go with you again? I don't want you to feel like I doubted you, even though, by the way, it's just totally, this is the way business works. This is sports. It's an industry. By the way, I like it, Spawn said, literally everyone in every team should understand it's possible to change them. Like, I'll give you the obvious example. Yes, in theory, Yamato, no one actually ever would replace Caps in G2 because that's basically like in basketball, this move where they removed Luka Doncic from the Mavs. Even if you think it's a better move, it's going to be so unpopular with the fans, it would almost not be worth doing for that reason alone. But I'll tell you what, Yamato, if I was the GM of G2 and for real I can actually get Chovy or Knight, I'll just get him tomorrow. Look, listen, I'd be hated, but even Cap surely would have to go fair play. You know what I mean? Like, even he would get, like, everyone can be replaced if you go crazy enough with the comparison. So first of all, I think, unfortunately, the nature of esports is you have to sort of treat these guys like kids. Like, basically, you just want, like, the player to just play it, and then at the end you tell him whether he's in the team or not. That's unfortunately the way it is. But the reason why I don't think it's fair that people think you should, like, essentially tell the player everything is because players won't reciprocate. Like, there's a million players, by the way, have done those chats with their team when they're in the team and it's the middle of the season. Like, oh, no, yeah, in the future, I'd love to be here. And then we're building our relationship. And then the second the off season comes, bro, they barely even give you the call. They're already on another team. And you're like, what? Like, and then their whole shit, by the way, is sort of like, well, I don't have to tell you. It's like, well, then we don't have to tell you, you fuck. How about that? Like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, as we say in England. So in my opinion, you either set a principle. You think that, like, either you should have to inform the person or you shouldn't. But then both parties better do that. They better not be some, but because I think it's more, I think the problem with this topic is, I think it's a super complicated topic. And as I say, I think people just think about the feelings of the player. Whereas I think actually it's actually very tricky to deal with in that scenario. Because like I say, what if you're trying to upgrade, but you don't get the upgrade? What if you want to kick someone, but then you find out like one of the teammates at the end of the season, like, no, I actually he's conditional for me staying. Like, there's so many ways this can go wrong. I think it's very hard to be a GM, basically, mate.
I think the main thing for me is just that as you sign the contract, every detail should be stipulated already. It's like what happens in the event that you're benched.
Yes,
are
absolutely.
you replaceable? And I think from a GM side, you should explain what your job is. Your job is to make sure that the roster is as good as possible. And the market condition is going to give you opportunities that you sometimes need to pounce on. And as long as everyone understands that this is how you operate. I think that can serve even as a motivation. Not necessarily that you need to like keep them in the loop about all your roster decisions. Like, oh, it's like week 7. It's like, oh, I heard Inspired is gonna go on the free market, guys. It just comes into the meeting room. No, not at that level. I just think it's like if you outline how you work, I do think from anyone's side, anyone that is a true competitor should be very happy that a GM functions like that, because eventually, if you have teammates that can be upgraded, you should be pushing towards that too. You should be very happy if your teammates get better and get stronger, and that principle is abided by, because in the end, you want people that come into the office and want to prove themselves every single day. It's that comfort of thinking that you're irreplaceable can be very, very poisonous at times. And I think just outlining how you work, I think, is like the main thing, because in the end, I think the main issue of everything is that all these fucking leakers as well, it's like they leak information that seems like half true, and it seems half baked, and you can't even like probe or have a conversation. Like, let's say I have a theory about a roster I want to potentially build, and you inquire about what the details are. It's like me looking at the recipe doesn't mean I fucking cooked the meal already. I didn't even buy the fucking ingredients yet, and then it's like, oh look, you baked the pie. It's like, no man, I'm reading the recipe. I'm strategizing, and like in particular, the one leak that came out was like, oh, KC want to like G2 want to trade these 3 players for Kalist and money, and then it turned out that this was just bogus, right? Like, I think that aspect makes things a little bit tricky, because if you want to hide and let's say not inform your players about what you potentially want to do, that coming out is just such a shit show. But the main parallel I want to like put like in terms of like esports people that are watching is like in traditional sports, like players have transfers planned, they have fucking, and they still play their game. Sometimes they get benched for whatever reason. Like most recently, there was a very high profile thing of like Lewis Hamilton just fucking joining Ferrari in the middle of a Mercedes run, and he was driving, and they cherished that time, and there was nothing, no craziness, because every party involved understood the nature of their contract and their deal, and with that, obviously, everyone operates with their best interests in mind, and this is something that happens in traditional sports fucking on a daily basis.
Also, in general, one thing I do get annoyed about is this is the way it works, guys. The players play. The coaches and the teams build the teams and choose who gets to play. Like, if you have made a fundamental error, if you think the player should have a say in who his teammates are, no, you can ask his opinion, but he's not the GM. Like, the job of the GM is sign the players. The job of the coach is decide who plays in the game. It's why I hate this idea that like you're being unfair to the players. That's just sports, mate. Like, in sports, there are some all-time. Put it this way, mate. Fucking Ronaldo got benched. That's real. Like, that can happen. Like, that's just sport. That is just sports, my friend. By the way, almost any player can be sold too. That's happened a million times in sports, where all-time great franchise players have been sold because the GM really thought I have a better chance to win with a different player. That's just the reality of it. Right. Anyway, Yamato, let's shift topics. But before we do, speaking of cooking,
indeed, I'm feeling quite hungry, and I'm sure the people that are watching this also feel quite hungry. And imagine the convenience of just going to your fridge and grabbing something, popping it in the microwave, and then eating something as if it's just boom, freshly made, perfect, with the nutrients that you've handpicked, with ingredients that you've handpicked. This all sounds like a damn dream, Thorin, but this dream can easily become a reality for everybody with Factor Meals. The coolest thing about Factor Meals is, as I mentioned, it's like, you and me, we are very, very, skeptical about new technology, new things. And the moment you try something, you had that microwave meal because your parents, went away on some vacation for a day, and you were left with that microwave meal, and you tried it, and it just doesn't taste like artificial and weird, and it's frozen, and you're like, what the hell are you eating? But you're just kind of eating it because you want to survive. That skepticism carries through until you try a Factor Meal. Like, the first time I tried Factor Meal was in Texas. With Dom, and I was like, oh, there's something off about this, I don't believe it. And then I'm eating it. It's been in the fridge for a couple of days. It tastes fucking delicious. Just in the microwave. It had like the chicken with the garlic butter just melted nicely over it, and it was as if it was just a freshly cooked meal. And the convenience of that is just immense, because obviously cooking the meals, meal prepping, all that jazz is so time consuming, and at the same time, in a lot of cases, you don't save that much money either. Time is money, but also going to the shop, buying all these little details to make flavors pop, whether it is that garlic butter that I mentioned. It's like you have to buy a whole stick of garlic butter, whatever, and then you just use a little bit, and then you just like kind of, you forget about it in the fridge. You don't know what to make use of it. You know, you're losing money on all these extra details that really make flavors pop. So for me, I save money, I save time, and at the same time, for a person that, for those people that watch my stream, they know I'm always permanently walking because I'm trying to cut weight, and knowing exactly what I'm eating and being able to choose, protein heavy meals is making it super convenient. And there are premium dinners, there's lunches, there's even breakfast, so guilt-free snacks and desserts if that's something that you want to do. There's also like low calorie, there is protein plus, keto, anything to, of course, to your choosing, to make so sure that your diet makes sense, and making it easy with Factor is just a no-brainer. So for everybody out there, get started at factormeals.com/LFN50 off and use code LFN50 off to get 50% off. 50% off is kind of wild. Calm down, Factor. % off plus free shipping on your first box. That is code LFN50 off at factormeals.com/LFN50 off. For 50% off plus free shipping. I think this deal is kind of crazy, bro. I know how business works in terms of like acquiring customers, but at this rate, you gotta go try it and you're gonna get hooked right away. So I guess it makes sense. Thank you very much, Factor, for keeping us fed and keeping us fit as well. That's a really big thing, very important thing. Stay healthy.
Yes, indeed. By the way, thanks to everyone who buys Factor. And actually, speaking of eating good, one thing that never ends, Yamato, it's just on a permanent drip feed this year, is Asian League of Legends drama. Because, bro, we talked on the past episodes about how the LPL is one giant circle of sock right now, where it's like, except here's the problem. It's like it is, but then and then simultaneously, the best team is still top esports somehow, which is so triggering because we're all so scared that they're not going to make it, right? But here's the thing, Yamato, as if to show how truly fucking counter logic, as it were, the LPL is. So, are you ready, guys? JDG has fired CV Max, but as we speak, they're leading against anyone's legend who also could be the best team. Make it make sense. Make it make sense, you might. So he's done. Yeah, but listen, my boy CV Max, he's pieced already. As I've always said, unfortunately, here's the problem, Mato. He seems brilliant at finding players, developing them. The problem is when it comes to like picking the champions and telling them how to play the game, there's some issues there. So first of all, what do you think of him being fired? Because by the way, kind of a crazy time to fire him. Like JDD's right there in the mix, bro. Like if you look at this split, maybe they can even make a run and be the MSI team. Like here's the thing. I wouldn't have picked them as my top 2, but I'll tell you what, they're certainly like around top 4 to 5 area. And if you look at some of the games, like they might be about to beat anyone's legend now. Like they can certainly mix it up with the best teams, and they have the players there. They have fucking Scout, etc. Arlie, they have some sick players. So what do you think of this move firing CV Max?
I think it's so crazy because the weird thing is JDG fired, I believe, the coach last year, and they cited very similar reasons. So the whole situation is so dubious because they cite CV Max health. And I don't want to speculate, but it's always like the LPL insiders giving us info from what's going on in Weibo. And it's like how like basically the rumor was that he was like very, very aggressive in terms of how he reviewed things with Ale, and basically Ale was like close into his room, and he was like banging on the door because he didn't want to like do the practice and go through the effort. And this is all rumor, all speculation. This could all be completely false. I'm putting that out there. It's just that in terms of the convenience of some of the stories we've heard in the past, where like the whole issue with Griffin and when he was fired from there's just like a lot of things where when they're like reoccurring, you have to kind of, it's easier to kind of put the pieces together, but because doing this decision in the middle of the split is kind of crazy. And you tell me now that JDG is potentially winning is fucking nuts, because how they played against Weibo, it did just look completely deflated. They didn't really do anything proactive. Scout looked like he was in terrible form. I thought, damn, Doomsday has come for this team, because how they lost against Weibo was extremely like almost borderline fucking depressing. And the only thing that you can look at is like, oh, they just fucking fired the coach and this is what they're dealing with. And Scout's form looked awful. Even at that RE game, they were getting caught left and right. There was no cohesiveness in the way they played. And the only level of progress they've made in that series was when Weibo kind of ran it down, which is sometimes something that they do, especially they fucking switched out the support, and now they have a different support, so they're aware of their own issues as well. So it's like JDG, man. I now that you said that they're winning, bro, I want to know what's going on in this Anyone Legends series, because I thought it was going to be a wash 2-0.
Of course, yeah. No, the reason it's so, I'm with you. Weibo is like the team where, like, that is the canary in the coal mine. Like, you're dead if you lose to that team. Like that is, we've said in the past, it's just not a good team. Like, the problem is it's just not enough of anything. It doesn't have one area it's super strong in. In fact, I actually do think they're the gatekeepers, mate, because if you look on paper, they should basically lose to every top team. But you also look at them and they should beat most of the lower teams. Like they're in the right group. They're actually in an appropriate place. They're near the bottom of the Ascend group, of the top one. So, but if you're going to lose, the problem with JDG is, I think they have the craziest like ceiling and floor of any of the top LPL teams, bro. Like I actually think they can beat absolutely anyone, but they can also lose to a lot of those other top teams too. Like, I know there's a lot of teams can lose at the moment, but the difference is, I do think the other losses are more like we were saying, like the circle of sock, mate. Like maybe Anyone's Legend can lose to this team here, and IG could be. But the difference is, like, JDG right now can beat all these teams, but they can also lose to all of them. Like, it's why in a weird way I don't blame them for firing CV Max. Like, he was already known for some very wacky drafting styles, and I don't think that helped in this team. Like, in this team, the other thing as well, it's why what I hate is the timing of when he was fired. Like I said, Yamato, like, you fired him like in the middle of the split. Like, I hate that, because if you're the coach coming in, you don't have time to work with your system and implement and get a fair shake. But also, if you're CV Max, it's like, at least let me finish the fucking split. Like, okay, here's what you do. If I come third and I don't get top 2 and that was your remit, then fire me after the split, then bring someone else in for summer, and then he makes the Worlds run. I hate doing it in the middle. That's what I don't like about this move. I think that's kind of whack, personally.
We should be able to assume, though, just because it happened in the middle, it had to be something.
Some sort of conflict or something,
like something that is more extreme, or it is simply what they cited. It's like for health reasons, like maybe like a certain access to doctors or something. Who knows, right? But it just had to be something extreme, or JDG is just stupid, which I don't know. I just imagine that it has to be like something crazy. Because I'm with you. It's like doing it in the middle of the
get though, bro. The thing I don't get is their team, if you look at it on paper, seems so obvious how you'd play. Like, the players, if you look at the rest of their careers, like, first of all, obviously you base this whole team around Scout. Ideally, Scout and Jun, you want them like aggressive jungle mid. It's worked so many times in his career. Ale is a stud top lane. If you get the right carry pick, play for him. By the way, Piers has played an awesome Flathead style tertiary ADC, in my opinion. If you get the right pick for Piers, play around him. But actually, this team, for me, on paper, like, you can write the win conditions for this, like old school Monty 10 years ago, very easily. Like, I don't think you need to get too creative with this squad and do some crazy 7D Jenga draft, mate. You could just draft fairly cynically. Like, these are good players. It's just you got to fit them in sort of the right pieces together in the puzzle.
Yeah, the main angle, like, they've definitely like shown very, very high highs. I feel like that Billy series that they played was like fantastic, because they made Billy like look foolish in terms of how the macro played out, and like there was that Yorick split push game that was probably like the best Yorick game I've seen all year.
It was good. It was good,
in the context of so many shitty Yorick games. So that was like really one that stood out, because they played to this champion's strengths. So the capacity to do super well was clearly there. Like, the main thing that was a little bit weird. It's like it's kind of like JDG is almost like a version of G2 almost, where there's certain like structures that they function in super well, and you can rely on Scout dragging you over the finish line when that doesn't work. But missing is giving me like heavy like Labrov vibes, because there's like certain champions he like executes on super well, and then he's going to have games where he just goes 0-4 on Nautilus like in no time, because he just seems so out of place in terms of how he needs to connect. But if like botlane is stable, that pays, if he has a very streamlined game to play, he's going to be like one of the best in the world at doing it. And if you make sure that, as you mentioned yourselves, like the mid jungle is strong, because the history of Scout in the league is like Scout and Tarzan just taking over things, and we know that Shun can provide that aggression. This is a team that in those contexts can compete against the best. But I'm just sitting here and thinking, it's like, what the hell are they doing against Anyone's Legend? I want to see how they bounce back from that shitty ass series against Weibo Gaming, man.
No, I also think as well, like the LPL right now is so wide open themselves at the top. Everyone has flaws. Like, mate, the hardest one to get away from on all these talk shows, I don't want to make it the same conversation every week, is BLG. Because the real problem BLG has is, bro, I think this might be the biggest problem child team I've seen in League in years. Because, mate, in the same series, in the same BO3, they can have one game that looks like, bro, they never went anywhere. They're still like one of the best top 2 or 3 teams in the whole world. They could beat anyone if they play like this. You have those games where for real, Bin and Knight just hands people, and you're just like, fuck, this is why I'll never give up on you, baby. I'm always going to believe in you. I'll never let go, Jack. And then game 2 happens, and you go, actually, maybe there's not enough room on this fucking door. See you, bitch, get the fuck away from me. Like, bro, what the fuck? In the same series, they'll just go to the most egregious, getting clapped early. The jungler can't get anything done. They're just behind. They do like a shit draft where it's like a 0 on fucking Night or something. Like, oh man, this team is such a problem child because I feel like it's not even like day to day, like match to match. They just change game to game the level. It's so hard to get a read on this squad.
I think right now in terms of form, it's definitely the issues that we talk about constantly is like in terms of Wei. I do think like Wei is slowly doing better, but they are giving a lot of initiative and building around him in the draft. Like often they're just first picking the jungle, Sejuani, Vi, Lilia. That is looking good. But now we have gotten to the point that even in their losses, and Knight and Bin aren't performing well. And that, of course, just can't fly on this team. Like we had that Jax game in game 3 against Top Esports. That was like an insanely hard Jax game to play. It's like, but the Bin we know plays even amazing in those extremely hard Jax games. Because obviously it's like any other Jax player playing against Gragas, Poppy, Ryze even. Like that should be unplayable. But usually Bin in a game 3, you just feel like, oh, Bin is going to pull off some fucking wizardry here. But he couldn't cut it. And I think for Knight, in terms of where I land in the meta right now of what champions are like the strongest, we see a very, very heavy focus on the Road of Ages champions. We see Talia, Azir, like a lot of the majors, but the majors that Knight is known for, Orianna, Syndra, they kind of fall on the wayside. Sure, he has a Talia that he can play, but that's often like extremely contested, something that gets banned, and they give a lot of priority, of course, to jungle, as mentioned before. But Knight currently trying to find himself in the meta is looking like super tricky because we don't like when he looks Azir. His Yone also looks a little bit iffy. What we like the most is like champions like, for example, Ahri, Sylas. When he gets those angles, looks insane. But I do think that the current meta is one of the worst ones for a player like Knight. Even though he has such a wide champion pool, I do think that if they restructured their priorities and invest a little bit more making sure that Knight is comfortable, I do think that Wei would look a lot less comfortable. So it's just a question of choices because these first pick jungles, they're doing them for a reason because Wei seems to also have quite a narrow of a pool in terms of what he likes to play so far.
By the way, as you were talking, JDG did win the series 2-0, believe it or not. They actually did beat Anyone's Legend. Which, by the way, we'll transition to Anyone's Legend because there's an example of why the LPL is so hard to read this split. Because this split, the way you're supposed to think is this. You're supposed to think, if you watched all the games, on paper, the aggregate is that Top Esports is the best at the moment. But right after them, Anyone's Legend, by the way, just like the last finals, is right there. Like, they've been really impressive, actually, against a lot of other squads. But now they lose to, like, just fired coachless JDG. Like, what's that? What is that, bro? Because here's the problem. My issue here with Anyone Legend goes like this, Yamato. I just don't think they have, like, they don't have crazy hands in the way that BLG does. I think they need to have, like, a controlled style, play well around Tarzan, etc. So I just get a bit worried because this is one of those teams where, this is one thing I hate about League is that people don't get enough international experience. Like, on the one hand, I think there's absolutely a world where Anyone's Legend can go to MSI. The problem is, though, I'd be scared in the same way as I'm always scared when rookies go to international tournaments. Like, are they just going to trip up? Like, will Shanks do a cream and fucking not be that good? Like, I'm just a bit nervous. Whereas the difference is, even TS, I at least know what I'm going to get on some level. I have an idea of what the experience. What do you think of Anyone's Legend at the moment? Are you still riding with them?
I thought, I don't know what happened today, but I thought like, just plain and simple, Anyone's Legend, like the Top Esports matchup is the one that I would look forward to the most. And I thought that Anyone's Legend started to hit like new peaks because I did feel like Hope.
But they've lost very few games. They have a very good record, yeah.
It's like I was feeling like Hope was, ramping up, actually having carry performances. Same thing for Shanks. It's like they were showing some of the elements of the game that I felt was missing. And now I'm just stuck in this thoughts of what happened against JDG. But before that, if I just assume that doesn't happen because I don't know what happened in the game, I did think that they seemed like a clear top two. But now they lost against JDG, I just want to figure that out, because Anyone's Legend was the only team that kind of gave us a sense of consistency. I felt like they were performing, and there was a clear like ramp up, similar to somehow how we see with some of the LEC teams that, oh, they're doing better, they're improving. Oh, look at the scary performance from Hope. I felt like they were the ones that kept their kind of their feet grounded in the league. But now that they lost to a weakened JDG, I just want to know what happened. I just want to know what happened, brother.
Also, along those lines, they all doubted us, Yamato. They all hated. They didn't have the vision, the prescience to see what a glorious rookie IG could look like. And here's the thing, bro. Tell you what, they're not the best team in the LPL. I'll tell you that. I have watched them play. But they are better than BLG. Like, they actually are, like, right up there. Like, you have to put them in the mix with, like, basically right now, if I had to take, like, tomorrow, the 4 to be interested, at the moment with BLG, I can't know how they're going to play. It really is just top esports, Anyone Legend, IG, and JDG. Those are my 4 I'm going with to the playoffs. Let's see it play, because NIP hasn't made it quite yet. They've just got good enough players. BLG, no one knows it, because it's inexplicable. Like, we see how they lose. Even some of the stars sometimes don't play that well. IG is actually legit. Like, bro, here's what, I know what the problem is. Like all GOATs, people just can't see Rookie for what he is, bro. Someone play the John Cena theme tune. My time, your time is over. My time is now. Whatever that shit song is like. That's it. More. Rookie's back. He's back, boys. I know I say that every 2 weeks, and then on the second week I go, well, yeah, he could be back. But he's back for real now, though. He's back for real. Because actually, I tell you what, I've seen enough of IG now, bro. This isn't last split. Now they can have bad games, but overall, like 2 out of every 3 games is good now. Like they actually are coming together as a squad, and crucially for me, the biggest difference, we talked about this past week, though, it's not even actually the carry roles. It's people like, if JJ has a good game, they become like twice as good a teammate. Like, that's the issue for me, is like, it's the other elements, like whether they're in the server or not. It's not really did Rookie carry on Talia. Like, he does that anyway.
For me, the standout and the shocker is that, if I just look at consistency, the Shy...
He's not bad, is he? He's not bad,
The Shy has been consistently like good. Yep. It's like he has like a one-off like Renekton game that looks kind of shitty, but like in terms of consistency,
he's next leveled you. Here's where he's gone so far beyond your brain. You can't even comprehend what he's doing. Technically, Yamato, if he was inconsistent regularly, that would be a form of consistency. That would make him consistent. So the only way to remain inconsistent is to be inconsistent, but inconsistently, and sometimes be consistent. So in doing so, he remains ultimately inconsistent. Now, on the one hand, I should be a politician. That was a work of art what I just did there. On the other hand, did I even say anything? We'll never know. You sort of saw what I meant, though. You can almost follow me there, right? It's all good. It did look like I was trying to fill time on like a political stage, like got 10 minutes to go, just keep saying stuff.
Oh no, homie, the Shy is doing well. Rookie's
this is why I wish we had like a sponsor, like like anti-diarrhea medication. But if you want to remain consistent with your stool, by the way, I even saw you.
Why did you go there, bro?
This is because inconsistency, being inconsistent is like, incontinent in this case. But anyway, by the way, I actually did see a banger cartoon. That's my sense of humor the other day. It's a bit dark, Yamato, but spoiler, a lot of my humor's dark. It was one of those ones where there's a guy and he's taking a woman to dinner and she's sitting down and he's pushing her chair in and he goes, can I push your stool in? And she goes, we'll see how the dinner goes first. Listen, it's childish, Yamato, but it makes me laugh. That's what's important. That cartoon's straight fire.
Honestly, when you were starting, I just got worried, bro. I don't know where it was going, but this was like passable. This was passable.
Here's what's sad, do you want to know what people don't actually know? Almost none of my scandals in esports have ever come from this show. There was the one where I compared Reginald to Caesar, right? Which I even did say, if you ever listened to, not only as his personality. I even actually had the disclaimer on that one. All the other scandals are just from Twitter, mate. They're not. It's actually the biggest myth ever. Is the idea I'm actually too edgy on camera. I don't know if you know this. A lot of people don't even know. In CS, I've almost never even sworn on camera, bro. Like, if I did events, like, for ESL, I might have sworn, like, 2 times ever, bro. Other people did it with us. By the way, on CS broadcasts, you can get away with it. So it's actually a myth about me. People are scared about me. They don't know on talk shows. I'm not, I never go too far in that sense. I know where the lines are.
All right.
But shout out to whoever did that cartoon. Look, it's not a New Yorker cartoon, but straight fire, I'll tell you that right there. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
So speaking of stools, IG, not shit. They are good.
Yes,
Only when they
exactly.
play against NIP, man. Only when they play against
Yes.
NIP. For some reason, when they play against NIP, they just turn into garbage. But the main thing for me, what's holding me back from getting like really, really excited about this IG is just Mako. Mako is the only one that is lagging behind. You know, everyone's like picking up pace.
I don't. It's like he never arrived. The guy I used to watch in top esports, he never arrived in this team. Where is he? That guy used to be a king, or like a really good player.
For sure. Like even last year on Top Esports, he had times where I think you can consider him be like competing for being like the best support in the region.
Absolutely.
And now he's just so far away from it. And there is like while everybody's ramping up, we still get these Gala Kaiser performances, Ezreal performances. The Shy is doing well. JJ is a mixed bag, but when he fucking hits, kind of like a Chinese 113 in a way, you know, in this team. Like some of the angles he finds are just absolutely nuts. And Mako, I don't see the upside currently. Like right now, I can safely assume that 3 times he will get caught in the game. And can IG win with that happening? In a lot of cases, yes, but in a lot of cases, no too. It's like their game record. I just wanted to pull it up because I thought it was like the silliest looking one.
They've lost,
like their game record is
11-10. There you go.
Exactly. 11-10.
Which is totally accurate for how they are as a team. I'm with you, mate.
Yeah, it's like even that series against JDG that they played that went into the game 3 banger. It's like I think as a team they seem so unfazed about the game state, which I think is super super cool. Like they look for angles. They're playing. There's a certain level of fun that they seem to be having, which I think is super super cool. They seem to thrive and really really enjoy those pressure-filled games, and I like that they let their hands go all the time. Like I think IG is just a super super fun team to watch. And now, as everything around them is kind of falling apart, this is a fucking great opportunity for IG, and also pretty fucking hype for us, bro. I mean, everything's falling apart around them. JDG lost the coach, and lost to JDG. Billy can't keep up, and for some reason, teams are dropping games against World Elite, the team the day 2-0, coincidentally. So, like in the world of the FPXs and the World Elite, they are skipped past that, and IG is just zooming in and focusing on more important topics. So
there's the difference,
I'm excited.
They're only losing if you actually look now to good teams. I'm with you. The actual teams that have been like shocking people is like fucking NIP, WE, FVX is crazy. Like these results shouldn't even be happening, but at least they don't lose to those teams. I will say though, Yamato, you brought it up. We have to address this. Mate, if there's one game on paper they weren't supposed to win, it was that JDG series. If no one has seen it, literally pause this VOD right now, just pull up IG JDG Game 3 and just go to, all you're going to look at, I'll tell you the moment in the game, you're just going to look at when JDG is pushing in on the base. It's actually, for real, one of the most insane base holds I've ever seen. Bearing in mind, Yamato, it won the game straight off the back of it. Like, that has to be one of the most ridiculous 180s of a game I've ever seen in League. Like, because you know when you're watching it, you're even thinking like, but they're gonna knock the Nexus down before even win this fight. Like they almost like perfectly have to fight in a way that stops people hitting the Nexus. Like that's one of those ones where like people overhype any close game. I did think that was an amazing ending to a game. It was really, I was watching it live too. It was fucking bonkers, wasn't it? It was nuts.
No, that shit was like up there, like probably one of the best games of the whole year so far, in terms of just pure excitement. Because always it's like after the game reaches a certain point, like past 30 minutes, 35 minutes, then we just know the next objective is wherever everybody's going to meet. And it's not a question of like how you manage sideways, playing for tier 2s, whatever. It's just like pure, fighting, which we had for like fucking a solid 20 minutes. And they seemed so calm throughout that. And then in the end, it's like they should, obviously in that game, I think Pay's biggest flaw showcases itself again. because he had that moment to buy IE, but he went for GA. With IE, he just wants just the whole team.
For fuck's sake, just fucking
That's
carry the
fucking
game, you
insane,
bitch.
yeah.
I know, come on.
There's so many games where it's like you're 40 minutes in and you just can't rely on pace, which is like the biggest knock on him if you compare him to the other fucking demon AD carries like fucking Gala or Viper or Ruler. Like when they are there with 6 items, they are going to be the main character. You know, they're gonna steal the fucking show. And that game was just simply phenomenal. It's like it's up there. It's like that game 3, GenG T1, and this one is like 2 fucking beautiful games that should be remembered for a really, really like a fucking long time. Because I think always when you go into games, you're hoping that that's going to be the case. And somehow we were lucky that both of them were a third game after both teams won a game. Like it's just a perfect ending to best of 3. So that definitely everybody should fucking watch that one.
By the way, one of the teams that just never made it to this split is an IP. All an IP is good for now is this Yamato. Just making it a 3-game series. That's it. They'll make it a 3-game series against anyone, but it's so hard for them to actually beat the top teams. By the way, even Doinby himself isn't as sick as he was last split. He still has some pretty good games most of the time, but like the problem with their team is like, I just don't think it's fundamentally a good enough roster, Yamato. Like the only real reason we're even talking about it is because Doinby came back and because he was fucking smurfing initially and everything looked awesome. He was leading the meta and his rise was unbelievable. But like a lot of the charm of this team has fallen away from me. Like when I look at their squad, like I am a fan of Doinby. I do think Leave is good, but beyond that, I mainly, to me, this is more just a team that's like, the other teams are going to slip up against them maybe, or they can test you, or like I said, they can keep you honest. They'll win a game against you, but they shouldn't be relevant, this team. Like, it should be near the bottom of that table. It makes sense.
We mentioned that IG lost to NIP, but then looking at NIP's record after that, they lost to Weibo 2-1, they lost to TT 2-1, and then they got 2-0'd by FPX. It's like that run is atrocious. It's a very, very rough one because those are the teams where you should be like farming victories. They were competing today against Top Esports, fair play, but I feel like Top Esports is just givers. They are givers. They let you have your fun and then they win anyway somehow. I feel like that's always the story of Top Esports because that game 1 that NIP played, that game 2, I believe, Top Esports NIP, that was like NIP is just fucking pushing the Nexus 15-2 and the game should be over in 25 minutes and somehow it turned into a 50-minute banger that Top Esports lost anyway. With 2 Elders, 4 Nashers, I was completely fucking mental, and that's, I think, is a hallmark of the LPL. That's what the LPL is.
My problem is, though, when I just look like who plays the most high-level games where they look, it is Top Esports for me, mate. Like, I enjoy anyone's legend. Especially, I'm a big fat Tarzan fan. I like Tarbe. I like fucking IG, obviously. I'm a massive BLG fan for the Stars. But the way TS plays, I know people don't want to hear it because they still think it's going to be shit internationally. But I have to put that out of my mind when I'm looking domestically, mate. If I look domestically right now, if I had a gun against my head, I would pick Top Esports to win the split. Like, they do look like the best team. Like I say, they just have the most amount of games where they looked really good or they activated and won anyway. Like, when this team hits its peak, its ceiling is pretty fucking good, I think.
I think if there's any form of hope for the LPL, like moving into MSI, I do think a world where you move away from Road of Ages, like basically like the hope is that Road of Ages get nerfed and mid lane becomes a little bit more melee-centric, engage, champion-centric. It's like Annie is slowly getting buffed as well.
Have they made it boring now?
Like mid lane is like perfect for the European mid laners and also perfect for the LCK mid laners. They are very, very fucking happy playing Victor, Azir, Talia on repeat. While I think that we saw for the longest time that it's like LPL prefers to go in the Galio direction, prefers to go in the Rise direction, Aurora, Ari. Those are the big champions, of course, of the LPL. And I think if there's any form of hope, because obviously LCK is clearly like the strongest region right now, is that there is a big meta shift in the mid lane, because in a world where Knight gets to play what he's best at, Cream gets to play what he's best at, I do think that like that would be like the angle of opportunity, because I think that the LPL teams are very good at playing heavily into bot. I think that would be like their main skill. And in a world where T1 is not going to an international, which is of course very fucking likely, and there's no Gumushi Korea to play a very bot-centric meta, then that would be like the copium angle for potential like LPL upset at an MSI if it shifts into heavy bot lane and then just push mid, roam heavy 2v2, because that's how LPL won MSI many, many times in the past, besides the JGG one. It was always like, oh, RNG won MSI? Oh, it's because fucking Lissandra Viego go into bottom side, push, dive, push, dive, push, dive. And I think that with Spirit Blossom happening, new seasons, and flowers all over the place, that could be a potential angle for LPL to become better.
I also do think, and we mentioned it in the past, but I do just love the format change in the LPL. I basically only watched the Ascend group, bro, and it's straight fire. Yeah. It's essentially, if you just treat the Ascend group like it is the LPL, then the LPL is the best league in the world. It's fucking phenomenal to watch. Like when you do that thing on LCK and LEC, where you look at the schedule and you're like, this next week's not that great. That never happens in the LPL. Every single week, there's at least 2 or 3 games where I'm like, I'm in. Like, hell yes, let's watch it. Like I say, even because these mid-table teams have suddenly emerged like LEC, that are actually cooking, like they're making it work. I mean, the joke is BLG's a fucking mid-table team at this point in time. Like, it's a pretty good league, boys. If you haven't watched it, tune in. It's actually straight fire now.
Just to give people a taste of what the schedule is for the rest of this week, we're going to have Weibo Gaming versus W. That's like a semi-boring one. But Anyone's Legend versus JGG. Like, these are the matches that happened today, right? They're already finished. And then we have NIP Billy Billy, JGG versus TT, NIP versus AL is hype as fuck, Weibo versus IG, hype as fuck, and then to round off with Top Esports JGG. That's just banger matchups. Those are like at the level of fucking, like a GenG Hanwha Life or like a GenG Dplus. Like, this is super, super cool. So I'm with you. I think it's great that they're trying to push out these lower end teams from the league. They're like, fucking be gone. We are trying to make you leave. I'm happy that they're doing it, no matter how cruel it is, because in the end, it's a business and it's an entertainment product. And if teams are not entertaining, then what's the point? What's the point?
It also just shows me, just like sports, it's not that there aren't like competent people. I actually think one of the biggest myths of sports, in my opinion, is that like there's loads of bad coaches in top like football and basketball. I don't think there are. I think almost every coach at the top pro level is like at least competent or like can do their job at like sort of a 5 or a 6 out of 10 level. The real problem I think you see is that like there are only ever in every sport and league a few really good coaches though. So the problem I have is this, Yamato, is it's been so many years of the LPL now. I know the talent's out there where you could make like 16, 17 teams that were really good. The problem is, though, there don't exist that many good GMs and coaches and people that would even set it up to be like that. So, unfortunately, what the like Nirvana group has shown us these last 2 years is, the bottom franchises are just complete shit right now in the LPL. They have been for the last year or two. It's why actually separating them and segregating them out actually improves the league, because those bottom teams, it's impossible to give a fuck, mate. You just can't. Like, maybe they have maybe they have like Milkyway Trapped on RNG. You enjoy watching it. I don't know why, it's a bit perverse, but aside from that, there's really not much to watch. So I actually do think in a sane world, they should be trying to move more towards 10 to 12 teams. You got to shed a few of these, because there's been enough years. If they were going to be good, they'd be good. You'd be better off just having a smaller set of teams and just put the talent around them, in my opinion. This is a great league to watch, so I think it's fire to watch, mate. And I do love BO3s also. Always loved them. Always be my favourite.
Same. The only like absurd part is the fact that it's the EDG and the RNG.
Yeah, that's true.
And the LNG.
There's a lot of names in there that you've seen at Worlds and winning. Yeah, of course. A lot of champions on there, by the way. Yeah.
It's crazy how like sudden that change was, where like all the players just wanted to escape, and we're just waiting for Gala to get out of RNG, waiting for fucking Way to get out of RNG, and it got the Billy opportunity and so forth. Like, the only thing that I would point to about the LNG is like about the group that I thought was interesting is that LNG made like 2 jungle changes back to back. They just bench Way, put in another jungler I don't remember the name of, and then they put in a jungler that was on OMG previously, Xiaofang, and suddenly this team looks fucking good. It's interesting how the difference between a team playing good and bad, like it's sometimes the differences are super, super small. So LNG, if there's a team that could potentially like step up, like the LNG, EDG, LGD matchups are kind of interesting, because eventually one of those teams might join us in the upper side to, of course, join into the playoffs. So I just wanted to throw that one out there.
I've got one little detail for you. Yeah. I'll put it in the chat there. If you read this, Yamada, who obviously is one of the co-hosts on Power Spike, he posted a thing that's like translated about RNG, and it's even more of a bomber than you thought, Yamato. Apparently, Milky Way is trapped in a 10-year contract with his agency. with RNG through his agency. A 10-year contract. Now look, I'm just reporting what he said on his Twitter. You can go to Yamada, LOL. But I mean, obviously, he's just reporting what someone else is saying, who's one of the like people who does like translations of Chinese stuff. But it looks, it says Milky Way has a 10+ year agency contract with RNG, and that in exchange for that, by the way, he got 70k signing fee. So it says if player contract ends this year and team has no games in the last 2 months, they're not required to pay him any salary even. So another thing is, if they do that thing where you get booted out the LPL like halfway through, they're like, this team does not play. They just didn't get any salary. Like, mate, the reason it's a bomber is this is how fast league moves on, Yamato. It was only last year that this guy was the shit. Wasn't even just good. He was like, actually, for real, I thought like a top 5 player in the whole world, bro. He was smurfing. Remember all those games he'd have where like, he would just win games by himself as a fucking jungler in the LPL. It was unbelievable. So it is a bomber to think he might just be on like a bad version of RNG for the rest of his career. And we just almost have to forget about him and just see the Fire Rajas, brother. They expect to find one of our bodies in the Nevada group. Like, see you, Milky Way. But I guess we're all, see you, Milky. What, you stuck in detention, Milky, doing all we're off to the high school game now. Yay, summer. And he's like, oh, miss, can I nope, not till he finished that paper. Oh, fucking X equals Y plus Z. Anyway, whatever. And he goes, I don't know what the answer is. And Whippo goes, here's what Hillsang thought in a dream last night. I don't know why that's getting referenced. Listen, there's a lot of sort of, non sequiturs in the jokes here, There's a lot of references, callbacks.
Oh, brother, I just read through this entire thing. That
it's
RNG,
not today. It's really not.
Like RNG not paying the players, and that they are being threatened to lose a spot in the LPL, which would be good for Milkyway, it seems. I was like, RNG are just the kings of the most crazy contracts in terms of how they set up their loans and how they trap players. Like I hope a documentary comes out at some point about RNG's lawyer that just types up these fucking Da Vinci Code masterpieces that completely favor the org. And like that last line in that post, like basically, my understanding is like there was someone that asked us like, how did he sign a 10-year contract? It was basically facing the decision of either you play in LDL or you do move up to LPL.
Right.
So they hold that leverage over you because being stuck in LDL is something that happens, and the LDL is also a little dubious things going on.
Of course. Oof. Anyway, just throw that out there.
10 years, man.
That's fucking nuts, innit? I know. That's so nuts.
Jesus. It's probably like on Peanuts too. Like, this guy's not making money,
Oh, no. Exactly.
Oh, shit. Somebody I wanted to come back, bro. I just want Bo to get a chance again, bro.
Yeah, what is it? Is he really just not doing anything? What does he even... By the way, is he in Europe still? Where is he? Is he back in China?
He's back in China, and the last time I heard is that he was doing like this duo queue service that people could pay for.
Okay.
Like where he just duo queued with people and fans and people that wanted to get legal boosting, so to speak. So that's what he was up to. But I can imagine Bo was playing with NIP. Like instantly,
this one is just put him with Doimby again, innit? Like, let's just put him with Doimby and we'll win some. Because by the way, Aki is not it, bro. He is not it. He is very much not it. Even though, ironically, his name is Aki. That's actually a Muslim joke there, if you think about it. Isn't that what they call like your friend? They call me Aki or whatever. There you go. Not bad.
Okay.
I know a little thing about hip-hop music.
Hip-hop music?
Yeah, that's what they're all saying. Because remember, loads of the like American rappers have converted to Islam or whatever, and so they all call people Iraqi and stuff. But anyway, he may be your friend, but he's not a good fucking jungler, I'll tell you that. Bring Bo back in. Come on. Because it's also just criminal that a talent like that will just never play competitive again. Like, even if it's not as jungle, do what everyone said. Just switch to ADC, mate. Your mechanics are absolutely cracked out this world. I'd also like to see that too. Put him in there with like a really good support who knows what he's doing. Let this guy go to work.
Agreed. Free my man Bo. Free Bo. Exactly. I should look into what the problem is. I will check with him if anything has changed.
Like me and you will go to China and we'll sign him to a 10-year agency contract with Ultra Prime or whatever. Like, and then they'll go and be in. We'll play. And all we'll guarantee him cleverly, Yamato. We won't tell him. We'll just guarantee. This is the wording, that he's a starter. So he'll be like, oh, perfect, sign. And then we're like, AD carry style. And what the fuck? I thought it was jumping. No. Go over there and click that mouse, dickhead. But what I think, but I don't know if I think That's your problem. We don't pay you to think. Click the mouse and let Ming over here tell you what to do in the whole game. Like, you know, like that. By the way, I would also be so cynical about it. I'm just putting people with him who are going to just tell him what to do. Like Dime B, Ming. Then just let them control your brain. You're here for hands. That's all you're here for. There you go.
Yes, sir. Is it the LCK time? A little bit
Let's
of
do
LCK?
Let's do it.
And I want to start off like because we didn't like have any big matchups, right? We have like
Exactly.
Dplus,
That's why I left it till the
that's
end.
like the one we should speak about it. But I wanna throw something crazy at you, which is I think Nongshim is fucking starting to look legit as fuck. Like with this new mid laner guy that they have named Calix, I think there's a world where Nongshim could end third place in this fucking league because T1 and Dplus, I think that they are beatable because this Calix guy is super fucking talented. He looks like if BDD wasn't a team with better players. He looks like BDD Junior in terms of how he plays. Like in the mess that Nongshim sometimes creates, he is the one that fucking finds the way. Like he already has a highlight reel, and there hasn't been like a game where I feel like he has performed poorly. Like right now, this Calix guy, like where the fuck did he come from? Like that they have just this guy sitting on the bed, like in fucking CL while Fisher is playing. Come on, man! Like I don't watch the CL over in LCK, but to see these guys come through and do so damn well is simply just incredible. Like I think on that basis now, with the form of Lehens, with the form of Kingen, and also Gideon being actually like a legit good jungler, I think this team can actually take this opportunity to maybe overcome like a weaker T1, a weaker, of course, Dplus too, because I think Dplus a little bit worse than they were in the previous split. So even though I understand it's kind of a hot take, I think that Nongshim is kind of like, they're kind of fucking cooking.
Well, the good news is you will find out next week because next week they play DK and they play Hammer Life. So you will see after that week how good they are. I know what you mean. Put it this way. One of the points I always make about last split is even though Nongshim placed higher than T1, I don't actually think they were better than T1.
Yeah,
look, they did a really good job at that point of like gatekeeping the teams that weren't elite. But the difference was when you watched Nongshim, you were just sort of like, oh, fair enough. Hens must actually be a pretty good captain. He's sort of taken what should be like a bunch of mid-table fodder, but they're clearly better than the rest of the mid-table, but they're not as good as the D+, as the T1, etc. I'm with you though. If you look at this split, the problem with this split is the only super strong team is just GenG. Like Animal Life sort of like win games like as pros almost, but they don't look that great when they do. This split looks way weaker in Korea. So I don't hate the take. Like there is a world where if someone just looks at the name value and they're like, this team should never be able to compete. No, this team, like that's why actually this next week will be interesting. I'm with you. Like they could easily go 3 games with DK. Maybe that's winnable. I don't know if they can beat Hammer Life, but then again, Hammer Life's had some games where they've looked a bit kind of slow to start for me. So they've certainly got a chance, put it that way. I know what you mean as well. Like it is one of the things that'll never make sense about the Korea and China, by the way. They really will just have some like secretly OP rookie just on the bench. And they'll be like, give him a game. But you think it's the other way around, you might. You're like, oh, they're punishing the guy who's getting benched. And then like the rookie walks in and you're like, why wasn't he playing the whole time? What the fuck is this? Like, what? Because I know what you mean. Like, you just think to yourself, why wasn't he playing last split? Like, this guy's actually cooking.
No, I'm super excited about this guy. You know, it's like they had the T1 series, which was rather close, I would say. But I think this opportunity showcases itself because of 2 things. I think they're ramping up and doing better and better, and T1 is a fucking mess right now. They are a complete mess, and I think the Dplus is a little bit weaker than they were last split because I think that it's not as easy to lock in the champions that Lucid is the most comfortable on, because like last split, I think Lucid was in conversation of just being the best jungler in the league, just based on how well he played like the carry champions. But now, of course, it's a lot more focused on a lot of the more supportive junglers outside of course, maybe let's say Nafiri and the occasional like Lilia game. Otherwise, there's a lot of Zinzao, Sejuani, sometimes occasional Maokai in some regions and so forth. So it's a lot of champions that just facilitate, and I think Gideon is really good at that. And I think that Kingen and Lehens are having a bit of a renaissance here because they are fucking popping off. They're doing well. I like what I'm seeing from them.
By the way, I'm going to look it up now quickly and see if there's actually one here. But it's not really how he says his name, Gideon.
I have no clue, bro. I think Gideon might be the name of that YouTuber who catches predators on kick.com. Maybe I'm just repeating
Because
his
the problem
name.
is, there's actually a Bible name that is Gideon. So I wonder, it looks the same spelling. So I wondered if it was that.
I think you're probably right.
Is that how it is? Okay, all good.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah, it's all good.
I think Gideon is the YouTuber that he does.
There you
He
go.
does. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I could have, but by the way, just like they say, if people don't know, I know Richard Lewis gets mad that I say Zeus, but it's like that's what he says though, bro. So in general, and except for Paker, which I'm never going to do, I try to do it like the player does. So like, I couldn't believe a Korea might fuck the name up. And also, if people don't know, it is a famous thing in Korea. They don't even say your alias; they say your actual real name. Like that's actually a very famous thing they do. They only say the alias for us Westerners because that's our style of doing it. Like they just say their alias. Like same thing with Flash in StarCraft. They never said bloody Flash, mate. They said like Yimho Wan or whatever the fuck his name is. Like actually that's Box's name, but whatever Flash's name is, some Lee Young Ho or something like that. No, the Gideon guy's actually also been like kind of a fucking revelation. Like, who the fuck is this guy? He was just all right before. He's actually had some like big step up games. No, I'm with you. By the way, let's do it. Because the obvious angle we need to discuss. By the way, I'm just going to get this out of the way. I'll give you the disclaimer at the beginning, Yamato. You know when you get those fans in the comments that go, "Well, talking about T1 again. I guess you have to do whatever it takes to get clicks." No, they're a top fucking famous team in one of the biggest leagues in the world. And this show is where we talk about top teams in famous leagues, you fucking dunce. By the way, if we were wrong, you'd just say we were wrong. If you had a better point, you'd make a better point. If all you can go to is, "But why are you talking about this?" As you talk about it, that means we win. Because that's called cognitive dissonance. And your brain was trying to find any way that you were right. And in the end, all it could come up with is, "Yeah, but why are you talking about it?" "Because my mouth moves and air goes back and forth, fuck face." So on that note, you know what, Yamato? I know this is really weird. It's almost like you know what? Before I bullied Reckless when he was a fetus inside his mother's womb. Now I'm bullying T1 by talking about their games in the LCK. So you ready for some really hardcore bullying? Because I don't know about you, I think it's fairly relevant to talk about T1, the reigning world champions, losing to fucking FairX. Bruh. You remember on this show 2 years ago, we were all laughing at fucking... No, it was a year ago. We were all laughing at Vikler on FlyQuest. Do you remember? When he was getting gapped by fucking LCS at the time, but LTA mids were gapping this fucker. Beat Faker and said, "No, look, it wasn't him who did it, but... Fuck, bro, this is... The rest of the episodes were like, in context, they were in trouble. Like, yeah, they're not as good as Hanwha Life. They're nowhere near GenG. Maybe Dplus could be better than them. What are they going to do with Smash? This has to be like, fucking get the fucking bell. Ding, 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 ding. This is the emergency bell right now, mate. This series right here has me worried because there's two factors now that I'm really disturbed about. One, the level to lose this is really disturbing. Like, this wasn't even good, mate. And then two, this makes the whole Smash Goober thing worse because actually at the moment, they've both had bad games. Like, I don't even think there's an answer right now. Give me some thoughts on this. This series was bonkers, bro. What a crazy upset.
I feel like the biggest fucking problem is the fact that it just seems that they haven't mapped out at all the conditions that these players, like when Gumayushi should play, when Smash should play. It just seems so damn reactionary.
Right.
And I think that's a fucking problem in itself. Because if it was for strategic purposes, there were clear angles in previous series where I think, this was a draft where Gumayushi champions were available. This was a draft where Smash could have opened up and played Zeri. There was like a clear, angle for playing to their strength. But it's obvious that T1 is not operating under that idea. And now, after they lost that game 2 against BFX, it just seemed like this classic thing of how like some Korean teams operated, where it's like, this player underperformed, we're gonna just try something else now. And that's what it just was. There was like that 2v2 that they played where I think even in that game 2 that Smash lost, he played that 2v2, he flashed and missed the volley, and he missed an all-in that was insanely close, even though it was a good all-in. It's like that mistake, happens. I wouldn't care too much. That biggest issue was the fact that you're playing a draft where you're putting Gwen into Jace for your player that is Doran, where he needs to outplay and play insanely aggressive together with his jungle in order to get advantages into Jace. And just got fucking solo killed level 3. Then he got ganked and dove, and Doran just completely ran it. And on top of that, you're in a situation where Faker's playing Corki. So it's like in terms of understanding your strengths and how to utilize Doran, you have no fucking clue how to utilize Doran. It's like you did it in the previous splits and there were angles where it worked and it made sense. But putting him on Gwen and then setting up that Yorick Lee Sin game was absolutely absurd if you know you're going into 4-5 and you're going to fish for like Jinx Lulu angles. Like if you want to give your bot lane as much space as possible to dig deep, to play Lucian Nami, Jinx Lulu, which you want to do in that spot for Gumayushi, then you need to make sure that your 1-2-3 actually offers that. So it's like in terms of how to utilize Doran, really, really rough. And then back to my first point is just, it was so reactionary to put Smash in, because the way he played, it didn't seem like he was fucking ready to play, because some of the mistakes that they did in that lane phase were so damn atrocious. It's to the point where maybe this is one of the worst games I've ever seen Gumayushi play. It was like as simple as tethering wrong to enemy Zeri, losing flash onto the turret to Alistar flash, and then on the slow push, getting Hex flashed on, and then on the slow push out once again, just dying to, of course, this gank. That was like 3 sequence mistakes that are just game losing, and I don't know where T1 go from there. Because at this point, I think you just need to make a concrete fucking decision on what you want to do. But it doesn't seem like they know what they want to do. And right now, I was hoping, at least I gave always the coaching staff the benefit of the doubt that they know what they're doing. But now it just seems like they don't. They don't understand how to get the most out of their players. And the changes that they've made, of course, with moving on from Zeus to Doran, because if Zeus is playing that Gwen Sejuani game, then it's like, okay, fucking makes sense. It's like you're gonna make it work. But it's Doran into Jace. You kind of want to end up in a situation where you play a tank top, you play an AD jungle, and then you set up, of course, Faker for his particular champions, because I do think Faker's been playing well this split. Owner as well, but the main weakness, so to speak, about Faker is that it's very layered which champions he wants to play. It's like Talia over Azir over Ahri, and he's just going to go next in line. He has like 5 champions on the list that he wants to go to. If you just fucking throw him on a corky, this is not where Faker is going to thrive, of course.
A few things about this series. So one would be, if you're a massive Guma stan, this is your nightmare, bro, because he was in game 3. And what champion did he have? The one you all say is the king of fucking Jinx, which, by the way, everyone told you on broadcast who actually watches the game, you can't just permaforce Jinx in the modern day. This isn't like 3 years ago, mate. Like, so one, that wasn't even good. He lost to fucking Kellen lane, for fuck's sake. Kellen, the one you all made fun of on Dplus, it was worse than death. Yeah, that's the guy he's losing to. And then also, I watched a bit of Power Spike the other day, and I actually thought Dom made a really interesting point about Faker, which is, if you look, right, Faker's strength in the game is that he can still make like a brilliant sort of like macro move or like a team fight move, like in the like mid to late part of the game. But I thought Dom made a very astute point, which is, you have to, it's like, here's the analogy I would give to change Dom's point, right? You know, when Danny was on EG, Danny had that bizarre thing I've almost never seen from an ADC, where he was quite weak in lane and he didn't even seem to really even know how to 2v2 lane. But if you babysat him and got him through lane, then he was like unusually good at the team fights for like a rookie ADC. Faker, basically, if every game, Yamato, you could just skip ahead to 20 minutes and have an even game state, Faker would win so many games in League. His problem is T1 right now, like in this series, bro, they're behind so much. And the difference is, this isn't old peak Faker. He can't actually 1v9 a game from behind with like no agency. Like, he has to be like given the opportunity, he has to be given the platform from which he can then make a cool move to win you the game. So I think, sadly, I agree with you. The worst part isn't even the losses. It's that the T1 coaches just seem that they're trying everything and anything. Because I'm with you on the Doran moves. Like, I thought the whole thing about the Smash Guma things would be way more cynical with how we use Doran. But instead, we're treating Doran like he is Zeus and he can play like fucking carry stop. Like, no, please no. Because I'll tell you what, another thing I hope, if you're a T1 fan, that is giving you a little bit of being like humility this split, is you do now understand that when Faker was winning LCK last, it was against when Chovy had to have Doran. Like, that's who he was playing with, bro. Like, you might make fun of like Chovy. Well, let's see Faker win with Doran then. Go on then. I'm waiting. By your logic, guys, he's got Guma, you all tell me he's amazing. People tell me Kerry is the best support of all time. Orna, people tell me, might be the best jungler in the world right now. And Faker's the GOAT. Problem solved. You can have one player, Doran, by the way, multiple-time champion. Why can't you win with him? But actually, with this squad, with this setup, we discussed it on past episode, I actually do think this squad can't win. This, like, even with Smash in, it adds something to the game, but it doesn't fix the other problems. Like, this team has so many, like, the obvious area I'm scared for, bro, is I actually don't think they're actually even going to go to MSI. So I think they're going to be safe in that sense. But I think if they went to MSI, bro, can you even imagine walking into MSI with your solo laners as Thorin and Faker? Like, in 2025? Like, what? That's fucking nightmare fuel right there, man. I don't think you can win with that. I don't think you can win the tournament.
Agreed. It's like they are a victim of the LCK circumstance, the fact that GenG Life are as good as they are, and they are an even bigger victim of what is going on with them real time. I think the main thing is it's like we were hoping, like the coping angle was as lanes also removed, that Gumayushi and Korea would find like their stride again. And even now with the changes, I keep repeating the Spirit Blossom thing about how everything's going to be very bot lane centric, that they will find form again. But it just seems like this is not something they even see themselves and don't want to commit time into. Because in the end, I will never, ever believe that, even though like we are pointing to the coaching staff in terms of how they're utilizing Doran, this is a team that, even though it's a Korean team, that the players have a lot of fucking input on what's going on.
Yeah.
And like I don't see a world where if Korea and Faker wanted certain things to be done, that they wouldn't happen. So it's definitely like on a strategic side, I think everybody's involved, and in the end, this team just needs to make like a concrete commitment to somebody so they can build something. Because currently it's like when you have a 6-player and you have a 6-man, that should add to something that has a very, very strong foundation in the first place. But now they're working with very, very little foundation, and a lot of the games that they are winning or won are sometimes based off of very, very niche things that are very, very tough to recreate. So right now, I think from an outside perspective, they should just make a fucking commitment to an AD and go all the way through, because they need to invest a lot of time into the same alteration because they are lacking strengths. And this is definitely a team that can take a step back, and I think they can view Doran for what he is and set him up on like Scion cases and play Doran to his strengths. That will already like push them a long way. But considering how in this array they looked against BFX, the matchup against Dplus, it's very, very hard to imagine that in the short term that they should be like super favored coming into the Dplus matchup. Like Dplus still, in terms of where their solo laners are, I think Showmaker has a similar archetype to Faker in terms of playstyle. But Siwoo is looking fucking fantastic. If Clear did that to Doran, what the fuck is Siwoo gonna do, Siwoo Jace looked like one of the best Jace in a league that has fucking Zeus in it, Like, definitely, I think that Siwoo will be able to cut them apart, and that bot lane as well is also very dynamic. And then finally, Owner versus Lucid, I think is a very even matchup, but I would be worried about T1 coming into this series. Like Dplus is a dangerous team.
No, but if people don't know that game is tomorrow, I would take Dplus to win that one, mate. I'm with you. I think another interesting detail is this. You know how fans went way too far abusing the narrative of when Faker had to be subbed out in 2023 and Porby came in, and then not only did he look bad, but it made the rest of the team look terrible because Faker's like the shot caller or whatever. And then when Faker came back, that's why the second Faker came back and they won Worlds, you could never say anything to Faker fans because they're always just like, he does everything, see? He is better. They are all shit without him. Yeah, but here's the problem, guys. We've now been able to do similar A/B testing without Zeus. And spoiler, here's one thing that this has revealed, which I knew all along, mate, which is in those last 2 years, 2023 and 2024, they used to make out like Faker was playing limited champion pool, but because the team needed him to do that. No, they were also band-aiding Faker. Like, bro, the best example ever was when all the fucking AD mids came through. This guy could not play them. You couldn't give him the Zeri that all those like LPL mids were popping off on. He wouldn't carry the game with it, mate. In fact, he might not even get out of lane on it. He might have like a hard time. In fact, that's why the joke is Zeus used to play. In their team, you had Gumayushi couldn't play Zeri and Faker. So fucking Zeus used to have to play shit like that. That's how ridiculous the setup of their team was. So I'm with you, Yamato. Now that Doran's here, just a boring weak side top laner, if Faker really was Faker of 7 years ago, mate, he'd be popping all sorts of shit out now. No, he actually has probably the most, and he has for the last few years, by the way, the most strict floor chart of what mid lane champion he picks. And it's quite clear to to me, I'm speculating, but this is what I think I see in the game. I think they even in scrims clearly just practice bit. I think all the drafts come from what Faker picks in mid, basically. I think they all build out of that, bro. Back in the day, it had to be the Orianna or the Izzy. Now, like, it might be a Victor, obviously he's in the meta, but like, I'm with you. It's not only got a limited champion pool, it's clearly like super stratified. Like, you know he's going to take this if it's available. If not, he's going to take this here. He doesn't have a champion ocean, mate. And that's another issue they have in their team. On his picks, he can still be pretty good. And as I say, if he gets to the right point in the game, but he isn't, like, again, if you take him in isolation, like with you, every other player, this isn't one of the best players in the world, guys. This isn't like, you know, as a mid laner, wow, like if we were giving marks as a mid laner, like a FIFA score of the player, it wouldn't be that high for this player. You know, he'd be like in the 80s or something, but he wouldn't be one that, like, the difference is, I'll link to you it there. Someone did like a chart thing of all the stats in the LCK, and Chovey's chart, you'd think they just didn't fill the chart. It's just like, it's full. You know, like there's a gap, like you're good in this. It's just maxed out every fucking metric. Like, you can't be just okay and do that. Like, that is generational shit, bro. By the way, that is what Faker himself would have been in, like, you know, 2015 or something. But like, the 2025 Faker, I admire that he's still good and he can still have agency in the game, but he's not some like stud mid laner anymore. That's just a reality. You can even tell T1 knows that, bro. They're quite cynical how they play around him.
I think it's as Faker as a player, there's currently certain contexts that he's great under, and T1 should know. Like, they should know. They should not fucking put him on Koki, create those circumstances, because he had like phenomenal Rise games, good Halia games, good Victor games. Like he should stick. Like Thorin and Faker should play what they're good at, and then they can compete. They are elite level players in those contexts, but when they get pulled out of that, they are definitely not. And this is just T1's biggest blunder and biggest mistake. And I think that's the main thing that is so strange, that there is no progression. Because winter actually made me hopeful. I thought the way they ended was like they started ramping up. Doran started looking good. Everything started to come together, and then they lost a 5-game series against How Alive. Like, fair play. But now I guess just like the external and the internal turmoil is just taking too big of a toll in terms of how they set things up. I wonder, it just comes back to that initial conversation that, Gumayushi was forced to be put in by the CEO, and then they invested time into practicing with Gumayushi, and then after one series, boom, they go into Smash because maybe that was the deal. That's if we don't win, then you have free reign to do what you want, but you need to do this now. And maybe just in terms of how the strategy is being put together, that there's too many moving pieces that are distracting from the performance. We can only speculate.
The only thing is, though, I do think that is an area where you're never going to be able to have reasonable conversations around Faker, because everyone's just going to think of the heights of when he's winning worlds, and they're always just going to be like, that's who he is still. Where it's just like, let's see at this point, because by the way, this is the year where, I know it almost happened last year, this is the year where there might not even be worlds, mate. Like, that's another reason why that Nongshim conversation is interesting, bro. If there are 4 teams, there might not even be a T1 there, and that's if LCK wins MSI to get the extra spot. Like, by the way, if it's 3 spots for worlds for LCK, holy fuck, that's going to be spicy. It won't be, because of the way it works, you're almost certainly going to get that 4th spot, but it's still going to be hard to even get top 4. Like, this isn't the LCK the last few years where it was super top heavy. Like, I'm with you, mate. I actually think LCK is also like broadened way more than I expected.
No, there's just so many like new names that are badass. Like BFX, they lost against him, but this guy Diable, like Diable can easily be on a fucking top team. I think Raptor is also like interesting. Kellen is finding form. It's like Kellen definitely was a player that we were fucking annoyed with when he went to the World Championship, but like on a team like this, he's very serviceable and has a lot of experience. Like Calix, we already talked about, like a lot of newcomers. This is like probably the year where we have like the most amount of newcomers, and I like how aggressive the GMs are in terms of making changes. Like they are putting in new players, new names, and it's working out well. Like for a second, I thought I didn't realize with Bro, I thought they are just benching Hype and they put in Bull, and that really pissed me off. But then I realized that he's the reason Bull was put in against KT is because Hype is on loan from KT.
Right.
And it's interesting because KT don't have like a great AD, so they could use Hype, but they don't. And I mentioned this, I believe, on the previous episode, that you know, in terms of the changes that Katie did as well. It's like they put in this guy called Casting. He also looks a lot better than Perfect, which is cool. There's like a steady like ambition in every team in this league, which I think is very nice to see. Even the boring matchups are kind of interesting because there seems to be like an idea of progression. In the past, always like the boring matchups, it seemed as if the players and the coaches were playing to just keep a job. It's like they kind of conformed. It's like, oh, this is what is good to draft. We're going to show that we can draft the things that are good. And then when we play against this team that is better than us, we're not going to be able to take on opportunities because we don't have that level of ambition or aggression to try to punish mistakes. We take for granted that the enemy is better, and we're going to just let them lead this dance with us. And now I feel like the bottom teams are actually trying to swing hands. They're trying to make, create some form of identity in the way they play, whether it's BFX, even Bro, which I think is very, very cool for the LCK.
But on the other hand, if we've talked about all these other regions with flaws, blah, blah, right now, GenG just are the best team in League of Legends, mate. They just are. Like, eye test wise, it checks out. The name value's there. Look, I will say this. This isn't like the past years of GenG where they had like the super defined playing style and they play. No, they're more of like just like a meta team. But bro, put it this way, it was actually bizarre how off the meta they were until the end of the split last year. This is the GenG I hope to see, mate. This is really actually exciting fucking prospect where they are there with the hands. People have figured out how to coexist in the squad. People like Canyon are having Smurf games again. Like, it's actually just a fucking great team. Like, for me, if I had to pick a team, not just because of the record, like if I had to pick a team to win Worlds, if it was tomorrow, this would be my team. I'd take GenG tomorrow.
I'm with you. It's like we picked 3 teams at the beginning of this year that we were really fucking hyped about just because of the roster value, the name values, us being excited about those players. We had IG, we had of course Fnatic, and we had of course GenG as well. And GenG in their own way kind of have come to form similar to how IG have, but of course on a more extreme level. Because in of course winter we saw that Canyon started slow. Chovy was looking like really, really off. There was that whole thing about him playing 500 TFT games and him just not putting in the hours. And now this top side is like when fucking you can argue borderline that Ruler is maybe the weakest performer on this team. It's like, who can fucking stop them? Because Duro is also looking amazing now. Like the Blitzcrank game he had today, like he's finding confidence and he's leveling up and showcasing like why the fuck he's like top 5 on the ladder consistently for the last couple of years. Like he's showcasing how good he can be. And like you mentioned already, the Chovy stats, like they speak for themselves. It's like, sometimes GenG starts slow in game 1, but then it's like game 2, and then those game 3s. Like if you just isolate the game 3s that they've played when they've lost one game, are completely nuts. Whether it was the game against T1 or against the team that they fucking beat in 20 minutes, perfect game borderline, if it wasn't for one little grub, that is just straight up demonic. It's like they have such a wide range of play, and on top of that, it's like it flows so damn well because Keen is so good at doing any dirty work that is like necessary. He's so good at shaping himself to what the game is, whether it's like being weak side or actually pulling attention to him. It's as if he is fucking taking good attributes from Zeus and good attributes from Doran without any of like the negatives. And Keen is just so damn fucking solid, like performing at like a 95% permanently, while Zeus just hits that out of the park with 100 sometime. And that's like, I would say like the biggest difference. But Keen is just a player that definitely should be more and more in conversation of like, oh, this is maybe in some circumstances just the best top laner in the world as well.
By the way, here's what I want to make the point of now before they win anything. If you were one of the people when this roster was formed that was like, oh, super teams never work, you've stacked too many star names, then don't come back at the end of this year and go, oh, they just had all the best players. No. That's what you said wouldn't win. So my problem with this is like, I did put my balls on the table with this one and be like, look, I don't know how it'll work. I don't know how the Duro guy will play. Who the fuck knows if you can even coexist with all these stuff. But I just looked at these players and it's like, mate, especially like Keen and Chovy, especially to me, can shape themselves like into the team they play in as well. Like they aren't as one-dimensional as they maybe once were years ago. Like this team, it's actually just a really exciting project because they actually do have the games, which is what you hope from the super team, where they all do play well. And when that happens, I'm with you, mate. Some of their like closing games are scary. Like if I was the other regions, this is the team that everyone will be scared of at MSI. Everyone will be shit scared of this one, I think. I think they're going to win MSI. I'm just going to say it right now. I think, like, obviously we haven't even got to playoffs here. Lots can change, but who's going to beat this team in a BO5? You know what I mean?
How Alive is Zach the only one. Yeah, that's why LSK is so fucking hype. Like who else but How Alive? That's like the big one. But I'm with you. GenG form looks the best now, and I wonder if the fairy tale story of How Alive, how they like won every game 5. Did they do that by force, or did they get away with something? Because right now it does seem like they just got away with something, and the other teams, meaning, well, not plural, the other team that is GenG is ramping up maybe a little bit faster.
Yeah. And also what I hate is I actually want Yamato, the narrative to play out, but then Chovy to change the narrative like Neo in the Matrix. Here's what I want to happen. I want it to be, come with me, I'll take you on a journey. Come with me to the final of LCK Spring, or round 1 to 2, or whatever the fuck they call it. So we're in the finals, right? It is Hanwha Life against GenG, and what do you know, Yamato? It only goes to bloody game 5 of Fearless Draft. In game 5, Zika steps out. Remember, he's never lost a game 5 since the beginning of his career. He's won like 9 in a row, 8 in a row, whatever. He steps out. That's like the classic underdog story. You know, Zika was never supposed to be the all-time greatest mid laner. He's that plucky kid who had to go and play in the LPL. They didn't want him in LCK. Then after the LPL, he came back and they were like, mate, you could barely even play. I don't even remember you were on BLG. No one does, by the way. But he was on BLG. It was on BLG. Whatever. Oh, he only plays 2 champions. Then he like flukes worlds, bro. Justifiably, no one has ever gotten less credit for winning Worlds than this guy. Bear in mind, he did actually smurf at Worlds as well. Like, he actually was cracked. But he comes back, and even when he joined Hanwha, the whole thing was like, guy's a fraud. He's not actually that good. This is supposed to be Chovy's league. If not Chovy, maybe Faker can win once. Or you know what? In fact, fuck Zika. If you want someone more deserving, how about Showmaker over on Dplus? How about BDD on KT Roster? These are the great middlers. So he's in the game 5. In the movie, because it's Hollywood, just like Karate Kid, they'd make him do the crane, and then Chovy would run in there, and then he'd kick him. But I want it to be real life. I want in real life Chovy to go, wait a minute, isn't he slightly injured? Sweep the leg, stomp on the head. Right, there we go. I win. I'm the All Valley State champion. Fuck Mr. Miyagi. Wait, he was actually using devilry / wishcraft in a fucking competition. Ban him. That should be illegal. He's using like fucking... He's using his ancestors to cheat in a sport. The fucking cheating bastard. That's like spiritual steroids. So I want actually in real life instead, I want the real good guy, Johnny, aka Chovy, to just fucking sweep this bitch's leg and just win properly. And then it all ends the narrative. No more game 5 for Zika. No more wins for Hanwha Life. They get to go to MSI as the second best. And all your job is at MSI eventually. You're just Alfred to Batman. Your job is just to help Batman. So Batman's going to win. GenG's going to win. You could come second, but all you're doing is your job is just take out that LPL trash. You have to just get IG. To have pretend like IG's going. You have to get anyone's legend and top esports and beat them, and then you're allowed finally. Then and only then, when your city burns, Hanwha Life, will I allow you to die. That is when GenG will end you in the final, and they will lift the MSI trophy. In the end, fuck Faker. I don't know why that. I'll just do that in there to trigger all the T1 fans. Fuck T1 and Faker, even though that has nothing to do with anything I just said. There you go. All the greatest hits. All the greatest hits.
Jeez.
Anyway. If you didn't like the sound of that, maybe you need to upgrade your headset, Yamato, because I've got a wonderful Turtle Beach Stealth 700. In the same way as I stealthily snuck that whole thing in about fuck Faker. Didn't even know I had nothing to do with Faker. These are actually awesome, I've got to say. Because if you don't know, I've always been a massive skeptic of gaming headsets. In fact, if anything said gaming on it, I would avoid it like the player. Like, oh, is this going to be some sort of scam? Because what they used to do in the past with gaming headsets is they would make the price point look really appealing because they wanted gamers to buy it. But then the price point would always be the cynical part. You'd be like, oh, actually, for that price part, there's no way the build quality can be good enough. The sound quality's probably been skimped on. They probably put all the merchandising into marketing and make it look slick and black and Matrix-esque, but they probably didn't do like good tech in it. This is different. Like the actual tech for the price point is mega. It's got the like, what do you call it, thing on the front here, the cross-play wireless audio system where you plug in these two USB wireless things and you can just switch between two devices. So when you're playing the game, you can switch the button and take a call from someone. So you don't have to like get up, etc. You can switch. You can be listening to a podcast, etc. You can also, as a result, you can like listen to this show while you cook over on not on your PC, but you can also do it on your PC. You could also be cooking a factor meal or whatever, HelloFresh, whatever it would be on the past episodes. You can do all that stuff. Also, I found in the past headsets like this that have like a bit of like that type of fabric, I used to find they were really uncomfortable. They either like hurt the ears, so after like an hour or two, you realize like, nah, fuck, I've got to get off this for a while. Or they just make your ears sweat. Like it's too wet. They've leveled that tech up so much over these years. It's nuts. Like it's actually way more comfortable. And I don't get that thing anymore where after like a few hours, I'm like, I can't handle it. It's doing my head in and you almost need like the relief. They actually really, they fit really comfortably, fully over the ear on this one. So I think it's actually awesome. And lastly, another thing I hate as a boomer, Yamato, is that everything in the world now has to be charged. You have to charge like 7 different fucking things like Iron Man before I go out into the world. Like, no, what's great about this one is it has 80 hours battery life. So basically you only need to charge it like 1.5 times a week or something. And by the way, the great thing about modern batteries are that you don't have to fully charge it either. Just charge it halfway through and you'll be back gaming again and get as much time. So I think it's actually sick. So if you want to support us and get a great deal on a Turtle Beach headset, by the way, they don't only have headsets, they have all sorts of steering wheels, mice, keyboards. Go to turtlebeach.com and use the code summoning for 10% off your entire order. That's 10% off your order at turtlebeach.com with promo code summoning. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show notes by saying Summoning Insight or Thorin Told Me or LFN, and you will get yourself 10% off a great headset, and you will support our show, and potentially in the future, I'll be saying more things about Faker. There you go. And you'll be listening to them, maybe while cooking or doing other things. Shout out to Turtle Beach. We just do a quick 5-minute break, and we're going to do some Q&A section. We'll do like half an hour of that, then I'm going to wrap for the day. So come back after the break for the Q&A. Right, I actually have realised I never even tweeted the shows live, but don't worry, Twitter's not that big a deal. If you want to take part in this segment of the show, the final segment, that's where you need to ask a question. And to ask a question, you have to be a subscriber to the Last Nation Discord. And if you are, there will be a channel. It will be called SI-questions, and that's where you can submit them. And as I pointed out last week, bear this in mind, if you don't want us to read your username, just say it in the comment. Please don't say my username and then put the comment, and then we'll ask it that way. But if you do, otherwise, we will name you and potentially shame you. So along those lines, let's start. So the first one is going to be Nixon says, it's actually a CS one. He says, oh, wait, sorry, I'm in the wrong one. That's why. That makes sense. Wait that a second. All right, here we go. Right. Kiku says, Thorin versus Yamato. Right, okay, pick a game style. Okay, pick a game style. Pick your active player and coach one by one, as in we can't, like, we're drafting players here, I guess. So I think what he wants us to do is he wants us to make a team each and see like who we would end up with. But he's put like, you can decide all regions or specifically what parameters should we put? Are we making our world team here? Are we doing a specific region? What do you want to do on this one?
Let's do. We gotta have one player from each major region, current form.
Okay. But then what about the fifth one? We'll take a PCS for that or something.
We
Does
do
that ruin it?
PCS or LTS South. Or
Doesn't
it can be
a
wild card.
Okay.
Let's say it can't be Korean or Chinese. Let's say.
Right, we're ignoring language, etc. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, right, go on then. Who are you picking first? I'll give you first pick.
You give me first pick?
Yeah,
really?
First
All
pick,
right. Yeah. I'm taking Chovy.
Not bad. Not a bad pick. Right, if you're taking Chovy, I'll take Zeus. There we go.
Okay. So now we got to do the thing where we split the region up. So I'm squeezing in my boy Ben. I'll make him bounce back.
Not bad. Let me think who I want for this one. Yeah, I'll take Knight then. We'll have Knight then. That's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take Knight as my mid laner. So that's my LPL gone. Okay.
I will go over to LTA and I'll grab the man who doesn't think much of Razork. I'll grab a little Inspired.
Okay. See, the problem is I was going to do that. So I will go to LTA and I will go to LEC and I will take Razork. There we go. I'll take Razork tonight. Okay. I like these teams so far.
Okay. Then I'm going to the LEC and I'm grabbing Mickey X. My guy.
Ooh, okay. This is where it's getting tough already, isn't it? 'Cause I've already done 3 good reasons. So shit, who do I want now? You know what? No, I can do it. Okay, I'm in the LTA. I'm going to take KCorp as my support. There we go.
Okay.
That's my little hack there. Right. What do you want as your support then?
So I got Mickey. I need an AD. And I guess I can do the thing where I go to PCS. I'll grab my boy Doggo.
No! Why did I build it? I was waiting for him. Who do I pick now? I thought right now I have to find out who else plays AD in fucking PCS. Like,
to be fair, we did it kind of unfair because usually it's like if I pick first, you should be able to pick 2, and then
true, yeah.
So we kind of fucked it.
It's all good.
Just take Betty. Take Betty.
Old school Betty.
It's old school Betty. You can have Doggo. I get Betty.
Yeah, I guess I can do that then. Fair enough.
I think we did it a little bit unfair. But it's okay.
Yeah, still good teams, though. I mean, by the way, my team in the end was still Zeus, Razork, fucking Knight, KCorp, and then like still pretty good team.
Solid,
Pretty cool.
Respectable, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I was happy I got Mickey out of LEC. That was like the only one I was looking forward to there. Needed to fill the super role.
Let me see. Franny Boy says, okay, I'll tell you what, even though this is a CS question, I want you to answer as well, but you can do from a league side. Right, remember a few years ago, it was rumoured that instead of Rogue, maybe Falcons would buy a spot. So just imagine there was a league one, and I want you to see what you think of this. This person, Franny Boy, says, if you were operating on the Falcons budget, so in CS that means basically like unlimited budget, basically, and had total creative control, how would your own esports org look like? So if you had an org and you had like unlimited budget and total control, like essentially what would you do? He wants to know what kind of theme or org culture would you be going for? Do you have an idea for this?
Oh, damn. I think it's just like, I think in terms of like the open branding, this would be like my like a weakness of mine. But usually like in terms of how I would like build the roster, like the branding, I would hire some guys to do that part fucking properly. But in terms of like how I would want to build the roster is like I would try to basically start from a point where I'm bringing in players that I know is going to be like a very, very strong baseline. Like my biggest target would be to fucking like if I assume that some of the LEC players are taken, I'm making sure that if I get the rogue slot, I'm fucking firing everybody. That's for fucking sure. I'm not inheriting shit of that. Like we can take over the lease of the gaming office or something like that. But I would do my best to fucking either to get some of the FlyQuest guys, you know, like fucking pay Inspired and Whippo enough to come over and start that as my like foundation and then build from there. I think the main thing is that I love to work with players that can buy into the same vision I have in terms of, you know, how I would like the team to run. And then I would probably also snag up the coaching staff of FlyQuest. You know, I'll bring a Mythy over back, Nuktak back, and that would be like the core of it all, because I think that's where the biggest opportunity to cause serious damage right away in the LEC is. And that is to cannibalize a dying LTA and bring back the players that fucking belong here. In terms of the branding, I would probably, you know, start in a way that would, you know, represent my roots, but it would be very, very difficult to do so because my roots are widespread. But I would want it to represent my like if it's my org only, I would want it to represent my own family history, because in the end, it's a continuation of the legacy that the last name you know leaves behind.
I would just say that being as like what I know currently about esports, if I really have mad budget, like he says, I actually think the number one thing I would go for is personalities and people who would be really interested on camera and build like fan appeal. Because I actually think in esports right now, the saddest thing is you don't get the success story that exists in sports, which is that in sports, you really can just be like, I'm just going to kill it in the server with the best team or on the court, as it were. And just actually like excellence at the game can be good enough to make my team an all-time great team and make us. I think in esports you have to have like crazy fan appeal. You have to have people like essentially the secret in the modern day is a bit like the Inspired and Whipple things that I'm laughing at earlier. Even if you lose the game, I want you to give me such a great quotable in the interview. There's still talk about us. We're still relevant. We're still like front page news, win or lose. So I think I would go that approach. So if I have the budget, I'm gonna pick up, you know, the Perkses of the world, the people who talk mad shit, who have like the swagger and the personality. Those are the people I would want to team. In fact, I'd even go one further, Yamato. I would intentionally put a bunch of these players together that are hella spicy, and then I would do the whole like stream team type approach and like have all, because I would, I would want everyone to see the crazy blow-ups we have and the drama, but I'd pay them all so much and I'd tell them all before the season, we'll always figure it out behind closed doors. Don't worry about it. But like, let whatever happens, but we all get this as a show essentially, and we'll make it work later. Because I actually think that would be unique. I think too many people are just doing a sports approach, or they're just lucky that they have like an APA that talks shit. I don't think they go in consciously figuring this shit out. I think they just happen to get those players. I would consciously try and make a super spicy team with all big personalities. I think that'd be my approach. Right. Morguina says, actually, we didn't talk about this, so this is not a bad question. He says, if you haven't already touched on it in this episode, what do you think Riot's plan is with all these massive patch changes? He says it's becoming so hard for a casual viewer to follow that it feels like they are shooting themselves in the foot by trying to add variety. By the way, along those lines, this actually brings up something I forgot to mention earlier, because I think Dom made a great point, which is, Riot used to use that logic that I've never been a fan of, but it's like that the fan who plays solo queue has to sort of recognize what he sees in the game when he plays in the game, right? So obviously that's their argument against like lane swaps, for example, or, like there were certain eras in history where you could do like double jungle or some shit like that. Well, the problem I have with that, and it's basically what Dom's point was, is why is there still not a mode for Fearless Draft for just normal people in casual? Like, that does seem weird that there's not like a mode where you can play rank 5v5s or like a BO5 with, you'd think he'd bring that element because that's what we're all watching on the screen. So essentially, what do you think? Obviously, they've done this giant patch change with all the grobs and Attica and everything. What do you think the big plan is? If you had to speculate, what are they trying to do here? What are they leading towards?
I think currently if I'm trying to think it from their side, I think they're trying to keep the League of Legends player base as interested as possible to allow to keep them for as long as possible, to make it easier for them to transition whatever next big game that they are building. Because they've mentioned many times the MMO and then the restructuring of the MMO, and I have no idea what's going on, but they need to kind of retain the, let's say, social energy that is behind League for as long as possible, so the transition is as smooth as possible. Because right now they're holding the ball. It's kind of fucking getting slippery because they are dropping the ball like left and right on certain topics in terms of how people are getting angry and so forth. And there was like the whole Hextech chest thing, and now the monetization. It's very clear that they're trying to exacerbate and try to get as much money out of League as possible because it just isn't there. These are like very classic monetization strategies, even though probably like League's gacha mechanism is probably one of the most predatory ones ever, because at least when you compare it to other gacha games, there's a lot of free pools if you just play. And also if you don't hit the hit, you actually get things that are interesting, which isn't the case here with League, of course. I think that they are just trying to make every segment and everything that is new as something as big of an event that is worthy for players to come back to. So they made Arena, they want players to come back to it. And then like Spirit Blossom, they can make the whole trailer, they can utilize like the best aspects of Riot, which is, I think, in terms of how they build the cinematics and also how they build up the music. Like the music branch of fucking Riot is probably like the best functioning one. Like the music that they put out is complete insanity in terms of like the numbers that they pull and the amount of impact that they have, both within gaming culture and also even outside of the gaming culture, because you fucking hear some of these songs on the radio even playing. So I think they're just trying to build events to make players that quit playing to come back to it. So it feels like, oh, the big thing is happening, I'm going to go into the client. And I think they're just trying to retain the player base for as long as possible, because I do think it's dwindling, money is dwindling. And right now it's like, oh, we need to be ready for like the next big thing. Similar to how fucking, Meta and Facebook were like, oh, right now the Facebook model, we're not fucking making money. We have all this data. We need to fucking jump into the next thing. And then everyone was like, what the fuck are you doing? It's like, yeah, Mark Zuckerberg is there. It's like, I'm building out artificial reality. Your next social meetings are going to be in this online real estate world. And that was like their big jump with the fucking money back that they held, which was a flop for a very, very long time. But I think it's like you're either dying slowly or you need to just fucking take a big risk. And I think that we are reaching slowly the tipping point of that, and they're trying to maintain people interested for as long as possible.
I don't know anything about leagues, so I don't have an answer to that question. There you go. So I just sang the John Cena theme tune there. Just think about that familiar. Your time is over. My time is now. Some shit like, well, whatever. I'm not. I would say I'm not down with the kids, but that's actually about 20 years old itself. So it's not something. No one knows that anymore. Right. Far Night 92 says, which sports do you think would benefit the most from offering a paid streaming option that lets viewers follow a specific player's point of view throughout the match? So essentially, if there was something like ProView in sports, what sport would be the best one? What do you think?
Oh, damn. You know, it's like all the sports get weird, right? Because it's like, what, does the player fucking does he have a camera on his
I'm
fucking
assuming he means
head?
like a GoPro or something, yeah.
Or we're just assuming it's like a perfect scenario where we just see through his vision. Because I think it would be fucking surreal to see the pro view of like an MMA fight.
I was thinking of that too, yes.
That would be mental.
Yes.
I think something that is maybe a little bit more realistic. I do really like when they give us the POV of like Formula One races, where you just basically like see what they see through the colors, because it's very easy to just fucking slot in the camera. That's something they switch to. If I had the option to switch to that, I think it would be really, really fucking sick. But anything like even American football, like I don't care too much about American football, but standing there as like before the fucking ball drops and you have fucking VR goggles and you're fucking charging in, that would be sick as fuck. I think anything that is just like extremely physical would benefit from it, because that experience would just be fucking surreal.
Yeah, I was going to actually say UFC is the obvious one to me, because I think, first of all, it'd be incredible to be the person like doing. Imagine like Prime Anderson Silva back in the day knocking everyone the fuck out. Or even, by the way, just the POV of the person getting the shit beaten out of them on the cage would be wild to watch, wouldn't it? Like, that'd be nuts, wouldn't it? Like, I'd be fucking out there. The problem is, by the way, I don't have a great answer for this, but I will say one thing slightly tangential to this topic that is underrated is it is actually true, though, that a lot of sports are just stuck in the past arbitrarily, as in a lot of how they show like football and basketball is based on how cameras used to work like in the 1960s, mate, and where you could put them in the arena. Because I can tell you the most underrated thing in basketball is every now and then they do a crowd shot that's from like the crowd level, not up, like, you know, like a basketball shot, sort of like a 3/4 length building looking down, so you can see that angle of like the basket. So your brain, basically the reason it works is your brain can sort of judge if it's going to go in or not, because you've seen that static shot. But I can tell you, when they do the shot on the side, like at the crowd level, mate, basketball looks twice as impressive. It makes people who do like a move to the basket, it looks fucking like the Matrix, bro. Like, they actually for real should offer that. If they offered that POV, I would watch that over the like traditional one, believe it or not. So I do think there are examples in sports where, kind of like what he's talking about here, where in esports we have complete camera control, don't we? Like, the difference between what you do in Counter-Strike and League is so different. You can do all sorts. So I do think actually sports could actually, maybe not in this case, but like there are certain areas they could actually level up themselves. They just take it for granted because that's how they used to do it. Right. Spooken says, who are the best examples of esports polymaths? And he says that is players or talents who have reached a notable level in multiple games. Do you follow any other esports aside from the League, by the way?
Oh, not recently. As I mentioned, like I followed CS:GO in the long time ago when like fucking Fnatic was popping off offline, and like fucking online Titan was good with Kenny S. And
It's 10 years ago, but it's all good.
That was fucking ages ago, so I don't follow too much. But I guess like in League, someone that comes to mind like is just Rich, right? It's like Rich.
Oh, sure.
Considerably, I would say successful, right? Considering the competitive nature of like obviously he's not a top player, but he's been decent. He's been alright considering he was fucking the equivalent.
Oh, he was in a
Faker
team
of
on that
Heroes of
V5
Storm.
team. They were number one in the LPL at one point in time. That's real,
So it's like that jump is fucking insanely impressive. Like there's a lot of crossover with the games, but at the same time not. Like I've seen players try to cross over and it just isn't the same thing. Finding yourself again is tricky, and I think Rich is definitely like one that stands out. And there's like Jojo Pion with fucking Fortnite, but I don't know how good he was in Fortnite really, while Rich was the fucking faker of the game. So
Yeah, the problem is it's mainly going to be people who played like an FPS game or something, because those are the ones that seem to be able to switch between them. I do think it's an underrated quality. Like, I actually think one thing a lot of people don't know is no matter how, like, put it this way, even though Chovy is unbelievable at League, I actually have no idea how he'd do if you put him in Valorant or something like that. It might just be that he'd just be an average player. Like, if people don't know, probably the craziest example ever was when they went from Brood War, where Flash was like untouchable, and then in StarCraft 2, the guy played for like 4 years or something, Yamato, and he used to just come like top 16. That was it. He wasn't bad. You could still see he had skills, but the game just didn't fit him the same way. So the problem is, I would say it's very rare you actually get people who could be really good in multiple games. Like, when people can do it, I'm very impressed personally. That's why actually even the old school examples like the Fatalities, that is insane that they can just pick a different game, go hard at practicing, and then get like to the top. I think that's incredibly impressive.
Just to ask, because probably you know, right? Is there was a lot of players that moved to Valorant from CS, right? Like, were they any that like came out on top?
Here's the bad news, right? People are going to think I'm saying this to be like an elitist. It's just true, Yamato. Basically, the good players in Valorant, like the amazing ones, are mainly actually the Asian players that didn't play CS. They played like something like Overwatch League or some game like that. Like, there's some really insane Korean and Chinese players right now who are like next level. Most of the Western players, like Europe and North America, those were literally either like washed CS pros, like they used to be really good like 10 years ago, what you're talking about, or they were people who never made it to the top in CS, and so instead they went to Valorant. So you've still had some very good players. Like, there's a guy who played for Fnatic called Durka, who was really talented. There's a guy called Chronicle who's in Fnatic, was mega as well. But these were all people who were like, you know, like I never personally casted or worked their games in CS, but they were like, you know, a level below where I was like 10 years ago when I used to do the events. Like, in theory, could have tangentially. But put it this way, I don't think there are many that like would come back to CS and be on top. It's actually why the sad thing is people like the Tenses of the world, I would have been interested to see them try. It's just, I think it would have been very, very hard, especially because like in CS, it's a bit like Quake in the sense that I think it's one of those games that's really hard to get good fast. Like, the experience in games like CS stacks, mate. Like, it's really hard. Like, even if you're the young stud with better aim, it's really hard to beat the veteran player who's been like 4 or 5 years. He just knows all the scenarios. So I think there was some very good players in Valorant, but I don't know that they would actually be super studs in CS. And there's barely anyone's come back over, by the way. Like, almost no one came back and was awesome, you know. It mainly just goes one way on that one. Right. Nadnerb, here's a good one. If you could replay any historic LCK playoff with the new double elimination format instead of Gauntlet, which one would you pick? So is there a specific season of LCK you'd rather have had that double elim? What are you thinking of?
Oh, damn.
Because I think LCK is a good one to pick, because there's a lot you could pick from this. There's a lot of different years where it'd be interesting to see shake it up a bit, right?
Yeah, I feel like 2017, 2016, those are the ones that stood out, because they're just like even all the way to 18, 19. It's like anything with Griffin, really. Like, are the ones that probably stand out the most. It's like I wanted to see more of Longzhu, because like, we just got that one BO5 right, and they won in the end, and I wanted to just see more of Griffin, because I think they were just a victim of like inexperience, because Griffin never won a BO5 pretty much, which is crazy to think about. They lost finals, they lost against GenG, and of course the Gauntlets 2018, and then 2019 it's like they went to Worlds and lost that BO5 against IG. Like, that's just a blower, man.
No, I'm with you. If you actually went to that year, you'll talk about 2019, mate, you could have a banger for that one. Because think about the teams you had. You had Griffin with all these young studs who have gone on to be amazing. That was when Dam1 got good in the summer, where they had Naguri and all those people. Sandbox was there with Summit, back when he was actually a stud, by the way. You had SKT, admittedly, this is like, we haven't yet gotten to the Gubayushi era. We're still in the period when you had Teddy and those people, but still a good team, by the way, Clid, etc. Khan, obviously, is a fucking top laner. Then you had a Freak at Freaks was still fucking around, and GenG was down there with like Rudo, that mate. That was a pretty stacked league. Like, the Gauntlet doesn't do that league justice. Imagine if that's like a real MSI style double elim playoffs. Like, that would be a banger. And I'm with you as well. The difference is, like, you'd either find out even more that Griffin were frauds, or it might have actually fixed things, like maybe playing a lesser opponent and then getting into, like, you know, a BO5 that goes all the way to 5 gear. Maybe that, like, battle tests them. Because I always thought it was kind of silly. They played a million best of threes, then they just sat in the final and had to play T1, who always was like, bro, in the summer one, T1 came from the whole entire gauntlet. They'd played some mental like fucking like 11 games before they played you. Like in that scenario, like it's too extreme. Like you're totally cold. You haven't ever played a big match before, and you're waiting for the most decorated player ever who's insanely warmed up. Like that would have been a way better league. I'm with you, but you could also do many different years for that one. Like you just think of any great rivalry, and that's where the double elim factor is cool. The best thing about double elim is having people meet again and having the rematch. I love that shit. I think it's awesome. Right, Josh Gerling PT. Who is the most underrated player in the top 4 teams in Korea? So let's go look at the top 4. Who is the most underrated player in the top 4, Yamato? Who are we going with here? So we've got GenG, Hanwha Life. At the moment, it's GenG, Hanwha, Dplus, and Nongshim, we're going to say. Or should we say T1 instead of Nongshim? What do you want it to be?
We could say T1. Yeah, I guess it's more interesting.
Because the problem is Nongshim, most of them are going to be underrated. So let's make it T1 and make it interesting. Who's the most underrated out of these players, do you think?
I don't know. Like I don't know if I'm out of loop about like public discourse, but I do think that what Lucid did in winter doesn't get talked about enough. Like I think it was like pushed on the wayside because it was like a focus on owner in terms of how he performed, and I thought that this was like I thought Lucid had one of the craziest splits ever on Dplus. Like the games he was dropping with Dplus made them look like a potential contender. And I think Lucid, in terms of his growth, like Lucid is that's the future generation right there of like fucking great junglers. Like I can easily see Lucid jump up to the next team, maybe to replace, let's say, a Canyon in the future when it comes down to it, and be a potential like worlds winner. Like I think Lucid is a fucking insane talent, absolute insane talent, and I don't think it gets talked about enough. Because always with Dplus, it's like, oh, Beryl, Showmaker's back, which is fucking hype. I love Showmaker, but Lucid, I think, definitely is a fucking superstar.
I'm just looking it up now because I'm with you. The problem I have, obviously, is I don't know what every fan's opinion is on every player out there. But actually, when I'm looking at it now of those 4 teams, right, obviously GenG and Han will have enormous profiles and everyone knows a lot of their play. I actually think a sleeper is Siwoo, the top player of Dplus. I was looking here in a bunch of threads, and there's a whole bunch of threads where they like win the series and no one even says his name in the thread. Like, mate, this guy I think is fucking cracked. Like, I'm a fan of top playing Korean players anyway. Like, this guy looks like, first of all, if he's not on Dplus, this guy also could be on like a T1 or a bigger squad one day. Like, he has real talent. Like, I don't know where they found this guy, but what a fucking find. He looks really strong to me, mate.
Yep. No, it's like both of these guys for sure. Like, they are sticking around. They're going to be playing for 5-6 more years, like this is so early in their careers. They are going to be picked up by T1 or Life and fucking GenG at some point for sure.
Put it this way, if you haven't watched this guy play, I know Dplus isn't everyone's favorite team. Go look up games where he plays like, a Jace or a fucking, what else, like Gwen or something. Man, this guy's a fucking demon. He's really scared. By the way, one thing I love in their team as well is they let this guy play the game, mate. They don't just he's not on some fucking weak side. This guy gets to fucking play league, mate. He gets the carry picks. You can tell. This implies to me, by the way, Yamato, I think he must be like a demon in scrims or something, because his team looks like they're quite confident in him. Actually, they give him some ballsy picks.
No, for sure. Love is Jace. I'm with you.
Right. Bot Pounder 420. All of his questions are usually comedy ones, so I'll just read it, but it's just a joke in itself. It says, was it true all along? Was Freiburg indeed pegging me? Because in the old By the Numbers, remember the show with me and Richard Lewis? Yeah. On By the Numbers, we used to have like a sound bite in the intro that was like Anders Bloom, the legendary Anders from CS, casting like, Freiburg, are you kidding me? But then everyone used to say that if you made your brain hear it that way, it's like, Freiburg, are you pegging me? And everyone just kept saying that. So apparently he was pegging you all along. Maybe in the end, the pegging was the Freiburg we made friends with all along. Whatever, you get the point. Right, so the dog says, here's a fucking question. Here's a question and a half for you, bro. Get ready. This is a Sophie's choice. The dog says, which do you think would have been better for BLG this year? Your options are either keep Jun or you get Tabe back. Ooh, I like this one. What do you think? What are you going with?
Holy.
It's a question, right? That is a question and a half right there.
I'm thinking about the coaches they have now, It's like Maokai, EDG World Champion, Big Way, They have some people
That's
there.
True.
They have some good ones. So it's like, Shun being back, it's just there's something about, you know, I'm gonna do the K-pop fan thing, but there was something about seeing Bin and Shun interact together. They were always laughing,
Oh, you really had to get,
smiling.
he's gone Stan, he's gone
Yeah.
full Stan, he ships it. Okay, right.
Bro,
Okay.
I really, there's something magical about Shun, you know, like he brought them back. He brought them back at the World Championship. All is forgiven. It doesn't matter that you tried to poach the whole gang. Like I would want Shun just because I think the coaching staff is serviceable, and I think it would just function so much better. And now in a non-lane swap world, like Shun would just bring back Billy to where they were, and that's where they need to be. You know, like pre-fucking, you know, whole lane swap shenanigans, GenG at MSI. I guess that's the Billy I'm craving. So I'm sorry, Tabe. You've already worked your magic. They already remember all your lessons. You've worked with them already. They carry your lessons with them every day. So in spirit, if they get Shun back, Tabe also comes back.
First of all, that is so whack that you didn't even say like, oh, the way he plays with Bin in lane. Like, no, you were just like, when he was smiling with him, they looked so happy. You went full pleb fan on that one. I like that. Okay. But here's the thing. I actually think this is actually a pretty good question. I think they're both good options. Like, I actually think I might do the Tabe one. The reason why is I do think that coaches do get underrated. Like, I think there are certain coaches, he's an example of one, where either they're geniuses or they're at a minimum like talismanic figures, mate. There's something about when they walk in a room, it just changes the whole atmosphere. So I do think they did lose something without him. I also do like the Jun angle, but I'd like to just see the coaching staff, because the problem is, I actually feel like Knight is one of those players in his career. I've seen 1 million coaches now, mate. He's his own worst enemy. Like, if you let this guy decide his own pick, he'll make some fucking weird ass picks, mate. You can tell. So I'd maybe even go with Tabe on that one. A Jeong says, if you are T1, do you re-sign Faker? His contract is up after this year and he looks totally cooked. But there might be a full-blown riot outside T1 headquarters if he doesn't retire and he plays elsewhere. By the way, quite an applicable point. Obviously, he's factored in that if you choose not to sign Faker, what if he signs with like the obvious jokers you might? What if he signs with KT Rolster the next day? Like, that's like some nightmare for you if you're a T1 fan. So what would you say? If you were the T1 GM, do you re-sign Faker after this next year?
I think the main thing is that I would imagine that T1 has propped up their whole finance, like their whole budget, everything that they are spending, everyone that is hired, on the basis that Faker is a part of this organization. Because I think that in terms of how much revenue he is driving to the team, it doesn't matter how bad he plays. Because as long as he is the man that he is, and he wants to play, you should keep him. And at the point, like Faker probably, you know, he's a competitor at heart, right? He will have enough humility to know when he doesn't have like enough to be competitive. You want him to retire in your org, and you want to keep him there. You want your org to be synonymous with that. And at the end of the day, everything is just business driven. It's like they have a fucking skyscraper in Seoul, you know, that they need to pay for, and they have fucking a whole engine. I was at that office, you know, they have 12 stories of like really, you know, busy departments, from marketing to like fucking an S+ chef cooking meals permanently. I think Faker is just too important in terms of how, you know, the financial toll would be if they let him go. We can already see with Gumayushi. Imagine if the same thing happened with Faker now. Like, we saw the impact of Zeus and Gumayushi. Faker would be tenfold, 100 times fold. It would just shatter everything for T1. So I think they can never let it go. He needs to retire in the org. Like, that's just a must for them.
This is where my problem is. I just wouldn't take this job as a GM. I actually think it's a poison chalice, Yamato. Because think about it. If you kick Faker, that might actually be the best move. If I'm starting from scratch and I'm building a roster, obviously I'd rather have Chovy. Or Nightbugger. That's easy. But the problem is, that's if I'm just building with a view from today. If I'm the T1 GM, that's not the option I'm walking into. I'm walking into a team where, like I said about like Luka Doncic with the Mavs, every person who's a fan of T1 loves Faker. So every option I do has to include Faker in the team somehow. So if I did do the job, I would already understand actually not signing him isn't an option. Like, I do think you could build a much better squad without him, but the problem is, unless you won Worlds, it'd definitely be negative. Whereas, like, the difference is, if you sign him, you could also fail to win Worlds. It could also be negative. But what I would do is this. There's two approaches. One, let's say he plays identically to how he played last year. I think he can still make an amazing team. You just need to make insane players around him. Maybe he needs Ruler. Maybe he needs Zeus. Maybe he needs cracked out players at top and ADC. In which case, that might be enough. Or the other option is just tell him to roll swap to fucking support or jungle. If he roll swaps to support or jungle, and then we bring in Scout and a bunch of other stud players, he can also win and be just... Because in my opinion, the real hack is just that, Yamato. He doesn't have to be faking the mid laner, though. He doesn't even have to be faking carry the game. He just has to be on the team. If he's on the team, it'll make people happy enough, especially, by the way, in my world, if I'm making a spot, maybe he can even still win. Maybe I can give you Ruler as his fucking ADC, and he actually, like, wins the league with Ruler and Scout or something. I think that would even be kind of a cool last chapter. Right, the last question, because there's too many and I've got to go in a minute, actually. The last question is going to be from Hellfire206, and it's going to say, do you have a least favourite esports advert? He says there's one apparently from Secret Lab, the chair company, where it sounds like a sex noise that he hates. Is there an esports ad that triggers you, one that you hate?
Honestly, it's like they're not really esports based, but like LTA were like doing like these American ads. There's something about how like Americans do ads that are just so fucking absurd. They did like this State Farm fucking, I don't know, insurance ads, and they have like this reoccurring character as if it's a fucking sitcom or some shit. It's always the American ads just fucking confuse the shit out of me. Like I don't know how it works as viral marketing. So whenever those North American ads come through, those are super weird to me. Like the most recent one, there's like this pagoda fucking egg rolls, and you're supposed to like put them in your oven. So it's like the pause, like the Kit Kat break, right? Which is also fucking annoying, the Kit Kat break. So it's like, then they deep fried the picture. I don't know if you've ever seen like deep fried memes. So they like deep fry and put a bunch of fucking emojis on it. And it just looks like, you know, like the fucking, you know, what's his name? The fucking hello fellow kids, like this fucking guy came in and just like all the kids like deep fried memes, you know, like this one really, you know, when it's a poor job, I don't like it, you know. That's my pet peeve.
Right, mine's an easy one. I won't say the company, but it's a different betting company that isn't my sponsor. And if anyone knows CS, they're going to immediately know the advert I'm talking about. It's the one where they're in a cinema and then it's like some like over-the-top like romantic comedy. And this one was like, but I do love you. And this is why I hate it, Yamato. I think it's one of the worst constructed ads I've ever seen because the company it's for is a betting company. And get ready for the premise of the ad, Yamato. It'll blow your mind. It's a guy watching a film, and the reason why he's watching some weird romantic comedy, like a woman like, but I do love you, it's because they're trying to imply he wouldn't care about that because he's just like a dude, right? So what he does in the ad, he's in the cinema, is he pulls out his phone and starts using their betting service on his phone and winning. You've just made the person I'm supposed to identify with the person I hate the most in the cinema. The dickhead who isn't even there to watch the film. He's there with his girlfriend and he's on his phone doing stuff. Like, you've now made me hate people who use your service and you're even encouraging people to use it at the cinema. So that advert pisses me off, bro, because everything I hate about fucking dickheads in the cinema. So yeah, there you go. We'll end on that note. If you want to ask a question in the future, I didn't technically say, remember to subscribe to the Last Free Nation Discord. We will be back next week for more Summoning Insight.